This here play is called Hometown USA. It was written by Leslie A. Outterson and worked on by a lot of folks who fussed and fumed before everybody who saw it performed got up and went home. The name of the town is West Willis, and we're mighty proud to be setting in Massachusetts, the old Bay State. The day is April 6th, 1917. The time is 7:05 in the morning. There comes Jack Sanders, night operator at the telephone exchange. Jack's a good boy, a senior at the academy. And there comes Officer Burns to turn off the red light. Lord knows how long it's been burning. All night probably. I see Jack's in a hurry to go home. Probably hungry. That's Main Street where he's a-headin'. There's the Congo Church and the Episcopal Church and the Methodist. This is Union Street, and over across the pond are the Catholic churches and the Lutheran. Post office is on Union Street next to the telephone exchange. There's the town hall sitting big as life, and West Willis sort of revolves around it. You can see a basketball game in season, go dancing with your beloved, get a dog's license or even a marriage license there, and stand up and be counted in town meeting. That's where I come in. I've been moderator in these parts for nigh on to 30 years. Usually everybody is satisfied though once we had a sticker election. Mills are over there, using water power of course, and there's the gas company in the Pritchard Library. Here's the confectionery store close to the First National Bank and several stores we're mighty proud of. Not too many noted folks come from here, though some visited you might say, or went though. Folks say Daniel Webster held him spellbound way back. Anyway, we send some mighty good folks to Beacon Hill who don't have to take a back seat to nobody. Town Clerk Stubbs finds time to put out the Bugle, our weekly paper. Biggest man in town, although he's a little feller, is Humphrey Hampton, owner of the West Willis Mills. Cotton Mills, you betcha. Humphrey's got a daughter in the academy right pretty too, and spunky. Wait and see. There's the cemetery down Main Street. They say folks are dying to get in there. Clarence Atwell is town treasurer and mortician on the side. They say he's really the last man to let you down. Some town planning, yes sir, when you see how pretty the elms and oaks are along our streets. Of course the tree roots has pushed up the sidewalks here and there, but we still like the town. The Hampton House is the real showplace with the roses and geraniums in the greenhouse, and I don't know what all. Almost forgot to tell you. We've got 8,161 living here, and 300 of them are over at the academy. That's the high school, you know, on Main Street. There's all kinds there, and we are mighty proud come graduation day. We're mighty proud every day for that matter. When they had that flash fire, how hard everybody worked. Volunteer fire department and the regulars. Sure laid that hose fast, and then after everybody was exhausted, then the rain came. We've got train connections for the junction, and sometimes when all of us takes a notion to go down to Boston, folks has to stand cause there only one car to the junction. Yes, it's a good town. Hometown. Yes, hometown. Charlestown and Fort Smith, Crockett, Cheyenne, Brownsville and Conroe. Greenville, Salem, Flagstaff, and Springfield. Hometowns. Well, here come the academy kids to school, and don't they look fine?
Now, Elmer, is that nice?
Well, it isn't nice, but it's a good dart. It's symmetrical.
Oh, he ain't so smart. He'll never learn like me.
You're not too smart, Fred. Why talk?
Ain't I though? I'll tell you how smart I am. If the class was to stand in a circle, I'd stand next to the head of the class.
I get it. You would be at the foot of the class.
Children, your work, please. Remember when the bell rang yesterday, we were discussing the immediate and underlying causes of the war.
Think we'll be in? If I thought so, I would quit school and go tomorrow.
You're crazy. Quit today.
Boys, how we talk. We'll need time.
They're not old enough, are they, Miss Johnson?
Of course not, and besides, there's no war yet.
Miss Johnson. War has been declared. I got the news from Hattie Hickey at the telephone exchange.
Class, your country, my country, our country is at war.
Give me another chance from yesterday, please, Miss Johnson.
Chance for what, Alice?
To give the definition of democracy. I think we can do it today.
Good. You may try again. I'll say it along with you.
We hold these truths to be self-evident. That all men are created equal. That they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed.
There. That's good. I'm proud of you. Be ready for the preamble to the Constitution when I call on you later.
Oh, I just know they will all die. All our brothers, friends, sweethearts.
She's thinking of Arthur.
It's no joke, boy. War is hell.
Well, that's the way they are. Fun-loving, eager, adaptable, ornery. Just as well they have their fun now, 'cause you never know. Remember how it was in '98? A good many of the boys gone now. Not too many in the 4th of July parade as we used to have. I just hope these kids now, I just hope we don't lose 'em. Course, if their country needs them, they will go along fast enough. And we'll welcome 'em back when it's over. They will get eager to put their war experience to work. Sounds awful, but it's true. Remember when I come back, I thought I knew a lot about the law. I was helping one of my farmer friends raise some stuff to the hay loft in the barn, and I got mixed up in the pulley and tackle. Instead of pulling up a load, I hung on and was hoisted to the roof. When I got there, I bumped my head something fierce and fell to the ground. Didn't hurt me too much aside from a few bruises, but I thought I ought to get something out of it. The judge who heard my case thought different, for he said I did the wrong thing at the wrong time. Seems I held on when I should have let go, and I let go when I should held on. Didn't think it was so funny then, but I learned to laugh at it since. One thing though, we're expecting these young folks to do the right thing at the right time when it just ain't so. They're going to make mistakes just as we did.
Somehow I don't care for lunch today, but I suppose you have to eat.
Me neither. I'm scared.
About what?
About us, dear. Would you write to me if you had to go? I mean, once in a while.
Sure, who else would I write to?
Oh, I don't know. Here, eat my extra sandwich.
Thank, dear. You're just like my ma was.
Arthur, you didn't answer me.
Did you think I would be writing to my Aunt Effie and Cousin Phyllis and my dog? Say, come to think of it, I'd miss that old rascal.
Oh, pooh.
Now's a good time.
For what?
For this.
Oh, Arthur.
So that's how it is. This town, you know. This town's all right, I guess, but there ain't no one interested enough in me to make me want to hang around.
No one? Are you sure, darling?
Oh, well, you know what I mean. If there's a war, then I'll sign right up. Alice, you would? Of course. I'd make up my mind just like the time I got my new motorcycle. It's a beauty, ain't it? By the way, want to go for a little spin tonight, honey?
Sure, Nat. What time?
The usual, maybe 10 minutes earlier. I got to go to the creamery for some buttermilk for Ma.
I'll be ready, Nathan.
These kids today are something. How's that history and English class working out?
Oh, great, great. They're alert to the fact that I'm not much older than they are.
Well, we're all glad for that. I know I am.
Oh, Mr. Mason. How you talk?
My trig paper. It's strictly for the wastebasket.
Why not put it there then? It's extra work for Mr. Peasley to sweep it up.
Well, now look who's picking up after Fred already. Just like a woman.
Class, you will remember our discussion on the economic causes of the war. I asked you to observe some of the phases of the economy in which we live. All right, Nathan.
Just reminds me. I got to pick up some buttermilk at the creamery tonight. Now I don't know for sure, but they say that the Deacon Smith that is waters his milk. Now would you call that an example of diminishing utility, or what all?
Please don't let us mention names. I think that we'd better look for further examples. Yes, Jack?
At the telephone exchange, I found that there can be a wide range in the kinds of causes which lead people to make long-distance calls.
Explain, Jack.
Well, people will call long distance to congratulate someone on what he has done. They may do so because of an emergency such as illness or death. It may be a business call or just plain discussion. I know for I have to follow up my calls and make sure they're talking. And they'll spend anywhere from 10 cents to $3 or $4. Maybe more. Every night I sort some 200 toll slips that have been completed during the day. I think that's important.
It is, Jack. It's important business in our economy. I think I'm right in saying that the telephone company is the largest industry in our nation.
I looked for examples of punctuation errors in the papers as you asked us to, but I couldn't find any. However, I did see something funny on the Congo bulletin board.
Careful, please, careful, Marcia. You may tell us though, Marcia.
Well, the bulletin board out front said, Mrs. James Smith will sing "Oh Lord, have mercy." But there was that big fat question mark after the word sing and the exclamation point after mercy. I suppose, in a way, it was correct.
I saw it too. I see where they get a new custodian.
Well, you see, checking would have caught that error. Now, what are you up to, Marie?
Fred and I found this item in the Bugle for last week. It's describing the wedding presents for a bride. It says the bride received a beautiful diamond brooch besides many other fine gifts in cut glass.
I think Editor Stubbs had a bad day, just as we do. He should have omitted the word other, right?
Yes, I have bad days too. You have a good example for us, though. Jack, wake up. Join our discussion.
Been listening all the time. Here's my example of clever but funny advertising. Farmer Jones didn't have much room to advertise, but he did print 3 big words on a sign on top of his produce wagon. Sign read, "Pigs Good Apples."
All right, you can go back to sleep after that.
Well, and there they are. If I do say it, they're a fine bunch of kids, all look a lot alike. I guess you call that civilization or Americanization, maybe. Things haven't been too easy for some of them. You already know about Jack. He puts a big store by that $10.92 he makes at the telephone office. And folks wonder how Humphrey Hampton can keep that girl in line. Fine girl, that Frances. I guess just about everybody knows about those Montagues. How generous they are. Only farmers you know, but right willing to give their produce to the folks at the poor farm when they need it. And Alice helps her pa at the shoe store. They say things weren't organized until she took over. Shoes all over the place. That Fred Sprague, though flat-footed, swings an axe just like a man. He's a tough one. All of us knows about the Mills family. That's the way it is in a town like West Willis. Grace is their only child, but there are 4 adopted young ones they took just to keep them together. I don't know how they do it, George Mills being just a tailor. Marie's mother works the day shift over to the West Willis Mills. 8 to 5, then home to get meals all time of the night. Right smart little helper, though, that Marie. I could go on, but you know how it is. They're all fine. Not everything there meets the eye, if you know what I mean. That academy program, a battle to get the budget through. Lawyer Riley had a lot say about it in his 4th of July speech at the Center Park. Said we got what we paid for, and I calculate he's about right. This town's always had good schools. Some of the graduates get on down to Boston to study at Harvard. Others go to Yale or Amherst. A good many, though, continue right on in this town. Yes, sir. Once, the Academy basketball team beat one of those big city teams in a tournament. They got some kind of trophy for doing it. Some of the kids looked up our charter as a town while they were in Boston. It goes all the say back to 59. That is 1659. We're old, you bet, but we got some young blood too. Town grew mighty fast since it got its first 1,000. Always a toss-up between the Republicans and the Democrats. None of those other outfits would ever get a smell around here. We're usually one of the first to get our election results in, too. Snow removal is always a big item in the budget. If it don't snow, some smart aleck usually tries to grab the money. For something else, It's a funny thing. Pretty as this town is with the pond and the hills, and from the time the forsythia first begins to the last crimson flashes of the leaves in the fall, a lot of people always want to leave it in the summer. Of course, I know the Cape is pretty and the shore swimming is invigorating, but here again we got the ale house and the cottages nearby and all the good trout fishing a feller could want. You couldn't ask for anything better. I mean it. So near the county fair, too. And our sugar's good, too. Sakes alive. We send its LL over the place, even to the White House. Good pure maple sugar and syrup. Nothing finer with buckwheat cakes and sausage on a cold winter's morning. Well, time's moving along. I don't like it a little bit, but we got to be realistic. I see by the Bugle and the Boston Herald that President Wilson signed the selective military conscription bill with registration ages 21 to 30. That'll make it hard on a lot of our friends who are 18 or thereabouts. Of course, it ain't gonna stop some of them. They're going right along. Besides, Uncle Sam never won towards with people pulling back. This is as good a time as any to show yourself. Besides that, restricted submarine warfare is sinking our boats faster than we can build them. We need every able-bodied man we got. Germany's got us over a barrel for sure. What am I saying? I'd like to go again, but my leg. I'm not up to it. Can't you see? But look what's here. Looks like a citizens committee meeting. There's Mrs. Evelyn Sparks. She's president of the Tuesday Club, sometimes known to have met on Wednesday. There is Humphrey Hampton and town treasurer Atwell and Chester Mason. There's lawyer Riley and the venerable Dr. Poole.
Meeting of the Citizens Committee on Education will please come to order. Will the secretary please read the minutes of the previous meeting? What? Time's limited. Mr. Riley, you want to dispense with the minutes? Can you put that in the form of a motion? All in favor? Opposed? It is so ordered.
It seems to me our main point of discussion for today is the program in the schools. Are we going to teach our children a trade or not? I don't mind paying an extra $1 or $2, but I don't like the fads or frills. That Washington trip, for instance.
But there are certain cultural values that are so important.
Certain what?
Certain experiences and challenges from seeing the heritage of America.
Bosh and nonsense. I didn't get it, and look where I am. I say it isn't needed.
Wasn't that Washington trip financed through the sale of soap and receipts from the senior play? I was of the impression, although I could be wrong, that there was no outlay of school funds. Anyway, you felt that because so many go into the mill, pardon me, the West Willis Manufacturing Company, that we ought to prepare them for it. Actually, how many do you take in a year?
At least 10 or 11 of the 40 or more graduates. About a quarter. Of course, we lose some. I'd never be one to hold a man back if he could better himself. I think we need some real teaching of spinning and weaving, especially since I opened the number 4 mill, and less of that history.
Where do you think they are going to get it if we don't teach them history, sir?
Are you trying to be funny? Let them read the papers. That's social education.
I can't go along with you on those machines, but I do think the mechanical drawing is a good idea. And we could make shop required instead of being an elective.
That will call for more space in the shop. Is that what you want, Mr. Hampton?
It isn't what I want, it's what is needed. You know by now how big a share of the town's income is derived, extorted I should say, from taxes on my mills. If this is so, and you know doggone well it is, we need to make the graduates who are going to stay with us into stronger people. They are our second hands, weavers, section hands, and secretaries of tomorrow. We can't lose if we bet on those who will stay with us.
Are you getting all of this recorded, Mr. Stubbs? Of course, none of this is official, but we shall have something concrete to suggest to the voters in the town meeting. Could we clear up that item about the towels first, before we go to further new business? Dr. Poole, you were absent when we discussed the matter of substituting paper towels for regular towels in the schools.
What's the point? Whether they are clean or sanitary? I'm sure they are. May not be as comfortable.
Paper towels are cheaper and just as good. That's if we are going to furnish them at all. What do you say, Mason?
I say that we would consider ourselves fortunate to have any towels provided, whether paper or not.
Mr. Hampton, I should think as a cotton man you want to see them have regular towels.
I'm not in the towel business. If they are that fussy, let them buy linen towels. Me. I'm just a poor manufacturer struggling to make a living.
Do you want the question? All in favor? It is so ordered.
Well, will you look here? Meeting's over. School affairs settled, at least for now, and here's two young folks talking real earnest-like. It's the mill owner's daughter Frances and Arthur from the poor farm. Well, that's life.
Gosh, it's nice of you to let me come out here.
It's nice of you to come, dear.
You sure couldn't call at my house, you know, out at the poor farm.
Oh, Arthur. Why mention that? You know it's what you are, not where you are, that counts.
Gee, thanks, but there's not a boy in town who wouldn't give his right eye to be here. I'm lucky and I know it.
I know you must care something about me to come all the way out here. Don't worry, I'll run you home this time.
Think your father knows about you and me?
He knows about your coming out here. Why, should he know something else?
I mean about us.
Tell me about us. Arthur. Oh, Fran. You know about my plans. Our plans. I want to go to commercial college after I graduate. Then I want to work up to be an accountant. That sounds wonderful, dear. That's something like being a bookkeeper, isn't it?
Yeah. Sort of a glorified one. Heck, I didn't mean that. I mean they study harder and go deeper. They can do a better job because they take more responsibility.
Have you thought about where you're going to work or who you're going to work for?
I dunno. Maybe the bank or a construction company. Or I was thinking about going to Boston for something really good.
But that would take you away from West Willis, dear.
Not for long, though. Say, have you thought about what might happen if the war goes on and on?
Oh, Art. I don't want to think of it. Let's not. But it really could.
I'm older than the other kids, you know. 20. I was glad for the chance to get back to school. And I feel as if I owe it to my country to go. And I might not come back.
Don't let's think of it, dear. Let's talk about your work. Have you ever thought of working for Pa? I mean of West Willis Manufacturing Company?
Not particularly, and I think you can guess why. I want to be out on my own.
I know that, and I don't think there would be any chance of Father's helping you. I'm just hoping that he'll accept you. Think more about the town possibilities, Arthur.
I will, if I have to. But I'm going to give the outside job some thoughts first.
Arthur Hunt. Do you mean that we're not good enough for you? Your own hometown?
It's not that. I didn't mean that. I want to be independent, don't you see?
Well, then. Don't ever again let me hear of your talking about going away. It isn't necessary. I'm sure we've got some place here. But I know you are right. Only it's hard to take. I suppose that I should look on the bright side, shouldn't I? Commercial college won't take as long, will it? 2 years? And you can go night, can't you? So we can go ahead with our plans then?
When can I ask your father?
For work?
No, for you.
I guess when you get the job, dear. Doesn't that sound sensible?
Maybe. Are you afraid to have me ask him?
No. I'm just being practical, that's all. Sometimes I sit in my room upstairs and look toward the hills. Things are very quiet and I have time to think. Mother hasn't been gone too long and it seems as if her spirit lingers with us. I want so much to go ahead with you. To marriage, but don't you see? These are some of my most precious moments that are left. I don't want to hurry them. It seems as if I am still saying goodbye to Mother before embarking on a new and grand adventure in life. But her hand stays me and says wait. Wait for more of my glorious days of youth.
I know. I think I understand. I was just thinking of our parlor out at the house. I am permitted to sit there once in a while, on special occasions, funerals, visits from the committee, and vespers. I'm not bitter, you understand. Rather, I'm thankful. Thankful for what I have and yet, wishing for what I think I haven't got. I'd like to leave. The sooner the better and have a place of my own.
I know. You want to prove yourself. But you don't have too many worries there, although it is good to be ambitious.
What are you trying to say, dear?
Home worries are about the least we should have. With mother gone, I'm sure that Pa, if ever reconciled to you, would take you in just like a son.
And then we'd live happily ever after. Is that what you mean?
What's the matter with that?
Matter? It sounds too good to be true. What am I to do? Where would I come in?
Oh, don't worry. You'll earn your way. Paul'll see to that. Folks say he has the first nickel in the bank, and I guess it's true. But his business sense is so sharp that you can depend on him for keeping you working. He came up the hard way, he says. I think that's why he admires you for making good out at the poor farm. I mean town farm. After all, you could stay there and farm and you do earn your way, but you're going to do better. Isn't that right?
Yes. I guess you're right, Fran. Time will tell.
Although time moves ever so slowly, especially for us. That's the way it seems, doesn't it, dear? Going to study for exams?
Not especially. Been studying right along. I think I know what Miss Johnson will ask. The way I look at it, anything she emphasized in class is important. Think I am right?
Yes. You must be. You always do so well. I've admired you for that. Remember how you used to help me after church? After we went to young people's meeting?
Yes. And we'd walk home together and practice our lines. You haven't done that so much lately. I know you have a good reason. Don't you, dear?
Yes, the car, you know, a Saxon. And I get around quite a bit. Sometimes I take the cook home. And I have delivered books for the librarian. Pa says he likes to walk, still, he enjoys having me pick him up. It makes him fret because he can't see well enough to drive. And the fact that I think about helping him is comforting. Let me tell you about him. His bark is worse than his bite. Just like a dog. You got to make friends with him. Do you want me to take you home?
What time is it? It's late, isn't it? No thanks, dear. See you at school.
Are you going without kissing me, Arthur Hunt? There, that's better. There. That's better.
All right, folks. Thanks. You've had a chance to see our young folks up close, and you've noticed that their heads ain't always in books. That's as it should be. Remember? And you've had a good look at the committee, public-spirited citizens who believe in this town and give generously of their time to the public good. They've wrestled with such problems as where to locate the park fountain, how to take the squeak out of the town hall floor, and how to stop people from parking on the main roads. You know I said parkin', but I meant sparkin'. That's how it is. Once in a blue moon, the committee has me sit in as a sort of member. Well, we'll hear from them in the next town meeting. I think they will have something real important to talk about. War. The situation does look bad, awful bad. Still and all, I don't suppose there ever was a good war, was there? But here comes Jack, and hold on. I thought he was going home, but I guess he's had his eats downtown tonight and saved that long walk home. He is headed for his job at the telephone exchange.
Ho, hum, another day, another dollar. Wonder what Marcia is doing now. Won't hurt to see. Hello, is that you?
Who?
Ha? Me. Jack, of course.
I know. I was just having a little fun. What are you doing? I've been waiting for this call.
I'm talking to a pretty girl.
Who might that be?
Oh, one of those academy kids.
What's she like?
She's got blue eyes, brown hair, an oval face like a doll, and the cutest little mouth.
Oh, Jack, do you really like me?
Do I? Wait a minute, please.
Who was that?
Just Joe's lunch cart ordering pies from the baker. You know, the coconut pies, 2 pitch pies. Wait, I was gonna tell you something.
Think hard, Jack.
I am. Oh, I got it. Do you have a ruler in your desk at school?
Yes. Was that what you wanted to ask me? You're terrible.
I guess so. Seems like there was something else, though. Oh, I have it. Do you love me?
Oh, Jack. You know I do.
Do you love me more than anyone else in the world?
More than anyone, Jack.
I was going to ask you something special if you would listen.
Oh dear. I can't talk now. Mother wants me in the kitchen. Coming, Mother, coming. Bye now, Jack.
I couldn't help hearing you talk to Jack. Marcia. Yes, Mama. Jack Sanders, he's so nice. I'm surprised his mother lets him use the phone so much.
Please, Mother. Don't you know by now that Jack works at the telephone office? He's the night operator.
Marcia Draper. You mean you talked to someone at the telephone office?
Why, yes. He's so nice and manly.
How long have you known this man at the telephone office?
Mother, please. He isn't a man. Jack is one of the academy kids. He does seem older, though, because he has a job.
Do you like him? I suppose that isn't a good question.
Mama, I love him.
Love him? Are you sure? That's a very special feeling.
Yes, I'm sure, just like you and Dad.
You remember, don't you? Marcia, look at me. You're not thinking of getting married, are you?
No, we never discussed that, but I guess we came pretty close.
How was that, dear? Tell me, please.
He said once that when his time come to go to war that we would want to think of me waiting for him back home.
He said that? Well, I guess it takes a war to do some of these things. Accelerate things, I mean. Just so long as you do anything foolish. I won't forget my own youth. Your father and I had plenty to think about. Well, we were the same ages as you two. I guess I shouldn't have told you that. And your pa was nothing. I shouldn't say it that way, for he was a good man, but your pa was nothing but a fixer on the night shift in the mill. It was in '93 and times were very hard. He was so persistent, and yet so darling about wanting to be married because he had saved up $119. I wish he were alive today.
Oh, Mama. Then you do understand, you do, don't you?
Yes, I think I do. I'm not only a mother but a godmother, too. Clara's godmother. It's been hard but wonderful. You'd best be careful though and not get tied down too soon. Or war in '93 was an economic one, a depression. Then came a real war in '98 and your pa went without any urging.
You got married, though, didn't you? That's what I want to know. Your V told me before, but tell me again.
Got married, but you must know all was not love and roses. One must take the wheel with the chaff. Your pa never got over the fever from the was. He is always restless. The mill folks were good. Old Hampton gave him light work in the stockroom. I worked on the day shift, too, before you came along. That's what to think about, too.
Oh, Mama. I love you.
That wasn't all. Things dragged along. Material things, I mean, and then came the hard times in 1907. That was something. All our savings were gone.
I know. We have it in our textbook.
Only thing is, you read about it. We had to live through it. Bet then, I'd do it again if I had to. There was always love.
Oh, Mama. I'm scared. Love calls for so much.
It isn't that we couldn't use some more love in the family. But if you're going to expect to take, you will have to learn to give.
There. Thank you, folks. The American home, with lots of love and good feeling, makes you feel sorta wow inside. Oh, I know the furnishings weren't anything special and it's a cheap little house, but it's a humble atmosphere. Folks here go to church, as we said before. Some begin on Saturday and take the train into Boston for shul. Most of the folks keep things going with the early masses of the Catholics and the late meetings of the Protestants. Very friendly, too, if you follow me. Considerable visiting during the festival season, religious plays, cantatas and such like. Nobody crosses the street to avoid speaking to you. Not in West Willis. No, sir. But here it is another Sunday, and you can see for yourself. Hear the bells ringing? There's a couple going home from young people's meeting. Yep, it's Jack and Marcia.
How about a few pine needles down your back, dear?
Jack Sanders. Don't you dare.
Didn't you tell me that you were neither sugar nor salt?
No, I didn't, and pine needle aren't good for my back. Please, not here.
Not many more night like this. I've about decided to go. Make a promise, dear. About what, dear?
When I'm gone, think of me at least once a day, maybe at night when it's quiet like this. You talk as if you're not coming back, which you will. But of course, I shall, and I'll save all your letters. Don't laugh, but I've saved some of your notes at school.
You have? Are you going to hold them against me?
No, they will count in your favor. Must you go?
Yes, I've got to go home and change, then back to the office. How's your alarm clock? Want me to call you in the morning?
No thanks. Mother thinks we talk too much as it is. But good night, dear.
Good night, dear.
As I say, that's the way it is. Pleasure and happiness, and then back to work. Of course, work can be good, too, if it leads to happiness. This town's got to have someone on duty at night, no two ways about it, and Jack's our man. But look, no use checking him any further. He isn't going to miss any calls tonight or any night for that matter. Try and catch him? But what's this? School bells are ringing. I'll be hanged if it ain't another school day. Well, it's one of our biggest items, school. Mighty important. Let's see what they're planning to do now.
And so Class Day will be on Wednesday, June 20th at 3 p.m. in the auditorium. The senior prom will be on Friday, June 22nd at 9 p.m. Graduation comes the following Friday on the 29th, also at the town hall at 8 p.m. Did you get all that? Boys will wear blue coats and black bow ties. Yes. What is it, Fred?
Don't we wear our white flannel pants? I was planning to wear mine.
You are quite right, Fred. Boys are to wear blue coats and white flannel pants.
Mr. Mason, I have a surprise for you in the class. I'm going to deed over all the scratch paper so that you can supervise the making of darts. It seems to me that a good dart should to the length of the room. Don't you think so?
You are quite right, Elmer. Will you save all of that and spring it on us later, please, at the proper time on Class Day? And in view of the news we're getting about the war, and because of the nature of some of the parts of our program, I think we should be a little more serious, don't you?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mason. But don't let's forget to put Elmer down in the prophecy as a coming inventor. He makes a mean dart. I'm serious.
I have an important announcement to make. It has to with spelling. Some of the girls here are going to be spelling their names differently next year. I guess we can forgive them for that, though.
Who?
Who? As if you didn't know there's a Mrs. Jack Sanders, Mrs. Nathan Montague, and Mrs. Arthur Hunt. I've got a special for you.
What do you mean by that, Fred?
Nothing. Oh, nothing. May I leave the room, Mr. Mason?
You'd better, after that remark. Once more, easy, easy please. As you know, Marie is our valedictorian. Incidentally, Marie has an A average. And Elmer is our salutatorian. Elmer has an A- average.
You know how it is, ladies first.
All of you who have won honors in any form have my sincere congratulations. According to my records, all of you will graduate unless something unforeseen arises. But let's have a strong finish. Those of you who have speeches, please stay a few minutes, and we will polish them a bit. And our group work calls for one more reading. Thank your wonderful year at West Willis Academy. For he's a jolly good fellow which nobody can deny. Thank you. I like that. Thank you again. And now I'd like to be running through some of the things we shall be doing in this graduation season. For our devotional, we shall have the reading of 1 Corinthians 13, which I shall give. But all of you know it so well, I'm going to ask that you join with me in the reading. Are you ready? Though I speak with ye tongues of men and of angels, and have not charity, I am become as sending brass, or a tinkling cymbal. And though I have the gift of prophecy, and understand all mysteries, and all knowledge, and though I have all faith, so that could remove mountains, and have not charity, I am nothing. And though I bestow all my goods to feed the poor, and though I give my body to be burned, and have not charity, it profits me nothing. Charity suffers long and is kind. Charity envies not. Charity vaunts not itself, is not puffed up, doth not behave itself unseemly, seeks not her own, is not easily provoked, thinks no evil. Rejoice not in iniquity, but rejoices in truth. Bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. When I was a child, I spoke as a child, I understood as a child, I thought as a child. But when I became a man, I put away childish things. For now we see through a glass, darkly, but then face to face. Now I know in part, but then shall I know even as also I am known. And now abides faith, hope, charity. Of these three the greatest is charity. Thank you very much, class. I am sure that as we pronounced the words we were thinking of the full meaning of charity. And now, Elmer, I believe, is ready with his speech today.
I'm still working on this. You can tell me what you think and I'll do it over. What my parents mean to me. When I first thought of this topic, I was interested in showing my appreciation to my parents for what I think why have done for me. You know, food, shelter, clothing. Providing the kind of thing mentioned in our civics book. And then the larger implications, moral, spiritual. These go far beyond the material. Transcend, I guess, is the right word. The chance to have someone to confide in, to look up to, and yes, to admire, to follow, and to respect. But the further I got into the idea, parental respect, it occurred to me that what is really important to me should be. What do I mean to my parents? Am I carrying on in the best traditions of the American home? Have I justified the faith of my parents in me and their sacrifice for the children of our family? Has it been worthwhile for all concerned? I don't know whether I'm putting this across or not, but my folks have been saying over and over since I can remember. I want my children to have a better chance than I did. I think you have heard this before.
Very good, Elmer. Very good. I hesitate to say anything at this time. I know that you are going to extend your idea of appreciation which you have begun so admirably. I guess that all of us recognize by now my emphasis on your being able to quote correctly from our Constitution. I regard the first paragraph of the 14th Amendment as being of especial importance. For that matter, all of the Constitution is of vital importance. As you have learned, the 14th Amendment mentions due process of law and citizenship both in the United States and in the states. I think it gives us a sort of solidarity to say it in unison. I know how hard Clara, Miss Johnson, has worked with you. It is only right that she should lead you now.
Thank you, Mr. Mason. Ready? All person born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws.
Elmer Worthington Watson. Yes, they're a great bunch of kids, aren't they? I think all of them will make good citizens. That reminds me. We've got to have more help in the senior play come another year. They're observing kids, too. We've got to be careful every minute.
I know, Chester. You're so right. You always are.
Now the teacher who takes your place will have to be good to keep up our high standards.
The teacher who takes my place?
Yes, since you're going to be married in the summer.
But Mr. Mason, I'm not going to be married.
Oh yes, you are. It's in my budget.
Oh, Chester, you really mean?
To marry you? Yes, I do.
Well, Those who deal generously with our children must have their own personal love, just like anyone else, I suppose. I do believe Chester will win that, Clara. What do you think?
Are you sure all of these people are going to graduate?
Almost positive, sir.
Well, have they completed all of the prescribed work?
Yes, sir, except for the final exams.
What would you do if they failed?
We would hold the diploma until the work is made up.
I see. What's this? Arthur Taylor Hunt. Isn't he out at the poor farm?
Yes. It looks as if our investment in human courage will pay off. Arthur's a good boy.
I want to make 3 small awards. I have been thinking about it for some time. You can call it the College Scholarship Award. It'll be anonymous, of course. $500 each to the best boy and girl based on academic standing. Sorta takes the rough edges off of college competition. Sure is tough dealing with competitors. One string attached, though. The money is to be paid directly to the college of their choice. Smart, huh?
A tremendous thing, sir. I am only sorry that I cannot mention the name of the donor.
That'll keep. The 3rd award is to be given to that boy who has demonstrated a practical approach to the problems of life. He knows what it is to earn a living. And there is real merit and need. I suppose you might know whom I wanted to go to. I'd say that Hunt boy. Been watching him for some time. I'm sure he's earned his way out there on the farm many times over. And he's grateful, surely is. Of course that Sanders boy at the telephone exchange is a good boy too, but I think Arthur's come further. Understand now. If this is handled right, I'll continue the awards next year.
Well, will wonders never cease? Humphrey Hampton shelling out anonymously. Sure wished I could pass that on, but that's life. You have to judge people by what you know about them, not by what they are. Sorta makes you think now, doesn't it? A wealthy man isn't always happy all his life. We all know that. Hampton couldn't save his wife. Left with an only daughter. Folks say it hasn't been too easy, but that Frances has brought real joy into his life. Looks as if she has brought it to someone else too.
I thought you'd never get here. Pa's been carrying on.
Carrying on. And just when I thought of asking him about you.
You won't have to. I've already told him.
You mean you went to him and explained everything? Why did you do that?
Not everything. But he sort of suspected, and there wasn't any use denying it.
Denying it? I haven't performed any crime.
No, dear, of course not. But you just don't oppose father. You give in to him.
Now what do we do?
What can we do? Graduation's close. That's something.
So it is, and it's the beginning of a new era. But what is it that affects him so, Fran?
Art, you must understand, dear, that this is all so new for him. He's had just me, alone, for 4 long years. The prospect of having any change in his routine is hard to bear. With his work, he is all business, but with the assurance of the man who gives the orders. He is used to giving the orders and not meeting opposition. He can be firm, demanding, and tyrannical when dealing with them, but he's finding it hard to boss me around even though he is a parent.
Has he actually said anything about me that's bad?
Nothing actually, but he acts like one who expects th worst. I feel better to talk about it than to remain quiet.
And I feel better if he hasn't said anything about my background. No papers were signed, but I'm a sort of ward of Th County. It hasn't been easy.
You've nothing there. Pa wouldn't be like that.
Remember that for years I've had to watch you kids go home at height when I was going home for chores. It was good for me, though. I guess, legally, you'd call the matron my next best friend.
Our problem is still one of getting Pa to accept change. He fought change in the mill. Once in shipping and then in the finishing department. And besides, our plans do not call for our leaving here, that is, if we can help it.
That part would be especially hard if he ever learned about it. My being here, I mean.
It would, but wait. I'm learning about Pa all along. I realize now that it would have been better to have told him long ago. Then he would have been prepared for the consequences. But we didn't know at first, did we, darling? Remember, it was after the junior prom. That would have been a good time to have told him, too, for he was worried about me, and when you walked in with me, I thought we could throw his arms around you.
Do you think I should see him and try to explain?
No. Stay away until I tell you when. It's just his dignity is being hurt. His pride, I guess you could say. Here, dear, it's not that bad. We're going to do better, you know.
I heard a noise upstairs. Does he know I'm here? He must. You're here. Will he say anything?
Oh, no, don't worry. You shouldn't show that you're afraid of him. That's what he likes.
I think I'll be going along now, dear. It's going to be 4 a.m. for me tomorrow. We'll talk again after graduation.
Francis. Where are you?
Coming, Pa.
Younger or older, they all have the same problem. Love. But then, sure, love never did run smooth, did it?
The tea is good. I certainly needed it. That man's almost impossible.
Careful, Clara. I don't know whether my Marcia should hear this. Being in school and all.
Oh, Mama. You'd think I'd go out and tell everything I hear. Well, I wouldn't. So there.
It's all right, Mother. I feel that it's good for her to hear. But I hope she doesn't have to suffer like this.
What?
What?
Oh, that man. That Chester. He talks in riddles. First he tells me I have a job for life. That doesn't sound too good, though, does it? Then he suggests that I won't be needing a job. Seems he has the idea of marrying me. You may come, Miss Johnson. You may sit down, Miss Johnson. Thank you, you may go, Miss Johnson. What am I to do? What have I to say in the matter? And then he sometimes fails to notice me at all.
Of course you have a say. But, Clara, Mr. Mason is such a nice man. You must be patient until a better time arises for you to talk. After all, he is a schoolman and we don't know what people would say and think.
Say? About us? About what? What could they possibly say? We are just good friends.
That's true, Clara, but West Willis folks must know about each other. What they don't know they make up. Marcia. Jack tells me what he hears when he listens in at the telephone exchange.
Marcia Draper. You be careful what you say, no. I declare. Such goings on and you talking like your elders.
Well, it's true, Mama. Jack can't help it. He has to listen in to complete the calls. I bet you'd listen, too. More than is necessary, I mean.
I've had enough now. That will be all.
I'm sure Marcia would be careful with what she said, wouldn't you? Besides, if you didn't, I would hear about it from George Peasley. He is quick to volunteer the news without asking him.
There's some trouble there between Mr. Hampton and Frances. Oh, I wouldn't say anything to hurt her, but Jack's sure that Frances and Art plan to be married.
Plan to be married? Those two?
Well, and that's that. All over town people talk that way more or less. No real harm in it. Folks are just interested, that's all. Now there's our biggest problem again. These two and the dad. Don't forget him.
Well, we re-graduates now, and school's behind us. Just thing almost 2 weeks.
Yes. West Willis Academy is now only a memory. Been good to me in so many ways, tough. And the scholarship came as a big surprise. Wonder who gave it? Mine, I mean.
I haven't the slightest idea. Of course it might be Pa. But then, he'd want credit for it as he usually does in cases like that. Then I thought that it could the school committee. Main thing is you've got it. You and Elmer and Marie. And $500. Just think of it.
I know. I'm still excited about it. The The stipulations sound a lot like your father. I mean about applying the scholarship toward the tuition charges.
I'd hate to ask him about it with the mood he is in now. It isn't likely he gave the scholarship.
Why?
Well, for one thing, he won't consent to our being engaged. Please, dear, don't look so downcast. I've been trying to keep him humored. But he is so hard.
What reason did he give for our waiting?
Not just waiting, dear. He said the whole thing was impossible.
Are you preparing me?
Of course not, I'm just stating what he says.
Anything further?
I hate to go into the unpleasant details, but he says, stalling, I think, that we're too young to have such ideas. He says, too, that you need more experience. In work, I mean.
And you?
I'm just forced to listen and wait for time. He says that you are an ungrateful whelp, that you are overly ambitious.
Well, I am ambitious.
I know.
Is this true what they are saying about you?
About my car, you mean?
Yes. They say you are driving too fast.
What else have you heard?
Well,
Out with it, Arthur Harris.
they say you are smoking and drinking.
They say that, do they? And do you believe what they say? Tell me, dear.
I just don't believe it.
Well, maybe I did smoke and drink. Who's got a better right? A shame you can't have a little fun without people nosing in your business.
Fun? Oh, Francis. Francis.
Things could be worse than my taking a drink or two, to say nothing of a smoke.
Does your pa know? About the smoking and drinking, I mean.
Arthur Hunt, I told you I had one drink and maybe 2 cigarettes. No, I don't think he should know yet that his daughter is drinking. No, if he has, he hasn't said anything, and I don't care if he does. Come inside.
Please, dear.
Please what?
Don't let me upset you. I want to make you happy, not come between you and your pa.
You aren't doing any such thing. This is all his fault.
Is this final?
Arthur, stop it. I haven't given in to Pa. Just let him talk. Besides, there's one hopeful thing.
What's that?
He thinks the idea of your going to commercial college is a good one. You never know exactly what he's thinking. Seemed to intimate there'd be a chance in the mill for you afterwards.
There you go again. I'm not asking him for anything.
That's no way to talk.
I mean it. I'm on my own.
And I'm proud of you, Art. Do you believe me?
Sure, I believe you.
Then never bring this affair up again. It'll blow over, don't you think?
You mean the question or the incident?
Let's say, the details. Come, would you like some ginger ale?
Sure thing.
I won't be but a minute. There's Pa.
My dear child. Oh, hello, young man. Good evening.
You two have met before. Remember the Halloween party last year? Arthur brought the code, didn't you, dear?
So I did. It's nice to meet you again, sir. I've been wanting to talk to you for some time.
And I, too. Now's as good a time as any. Fire away.
Oh, Father. Excuse me, gentlemen.
Very well, sir. Since graduation, I've been continuing on at the farm. Come fall, I plan to start at the commercial college. Of course, I'll use my scholarship.
Well, isn't it enough?
Not that, sir. Eventually, I plan to be an accountant, where, I can't say right now. But when I do, I was hoping I would improve myself so that I could talk to you about Francis.
Finally got around to it, eh? Well, the answer is no.
But sir, I don't think you understand. I know that I should be well established and earning a living before we could marry. It is only your consent to be engaged that I wanted.
Nothing of the kind, you ungrateful whelp. Don't forget that I was 24 before I had any such ideas. And, let me tell you, sir, you ought to know that I've checked up on you. You've got some commitments to live up to out at the farm. That is, until you are 21.
What's that, Mr. Hampton?
You're responsible to the overseer until you reach your majority.
I understand, I think, the legal implications of being at the poor farm, but my private life is my own business.
Quite right, and what my daughter does is my own business. In fact, I wish that she hadn't got tied up to you so early.
What do you mean, sir?
Her actions lately are probably due to whippersnappers like you giving her ideas of independence, racing her car all over the place, smoking and drinking. Who knows? Is this what you have been doing? And you have the nerve to ask for her hand. Out of my house, sir, but wait.
Yes, sir.
I wasn't going to tell you, but something in your manner says I should. I thought that you deserved the scholarship award for practical experience. Get it?
I think so. You gave the scholarship. You probably gave all 3 scholarships for that matter. Thank you.
And that's not all.
You mean there's more to this?
Yes.
What?
Who supports the poor farm? Did you ever think of that?
Why, Mr. Hampton?
Who paid for the deficits of the last 6 years?
Who gave the parties and provided for the extra clothing?
I'm sure that it was you, Mr. Hampton. Well, do you get it? Do you see how you stand? I'm trying to get some sense into your head.
Not only that, sir.
What, young man?
You're trying to break my pride, that's what.
Don't be insolent, boy.
What's going on here? Why are your eyes bloodshot and angry?
You keep out of this, child, if you know what's good for you.
Have you been threatening Arthur?
He doesn't have sense enough to thank me for what I've done. Really thank me. After all, I sometimes wonder if you are really thankful for all your blessings. Now are you?
Of course I am, Daddy. But I want to see fair play. There. I love both of you. I love Arthur, and I'll go on loving you, Pa.
Never, never as long as you are under this roof.
Now, Pa, there you go getting all upset over nothing.
I'm not upset. I'm waiting for your answer, young man.
Are you going to force me to answer?
I want to get this over with once and for all. Imagine my work at the poor farm boomeranging on me like this.
Oh, Pa, you are awful. Did you have to say that?
Are you on my side or not?
I think it's about time I said something.
Agreed.
Now, Pa.
For your support of the poor farm, I thank you.
Accepted.
For the paying of the deficits, which I understand include the free lunches at school and the new furniture at the farm. I thank you.
You were and are quite welcome.
For the parties and extra clothing, I thank you.
All fair and good. I knew you were a good boy, I mean young man. Just don't buck me.
But
what?
But I have this to say. In the last few weeks I have been following the news as well as doing my schoolwork. I've been down the enlistment bureau and they'll take me.
Arthur. You never said anything about it.
No, dear. For I didn't know how this was coming out.
I take it you've thought this over. Probably all for the best.
I'm sure that I'm doing the right thing.
I'm sure that you are. I want you to leave here for good. Let Francis alone. That's the least you can do.
I'm going now. I'll enlist.
I hate to do it, folks, but just to keep the record straight, I've got to go along with the news. Well, I see we fired our first shot on October 27th. Takes us a little time to wind up. What with the camps, the training, and getting the troops over there? Yep, been most of a year and a half now. Everybody's glad they studied geography back in the center school. Some places we didn't know about then, though. Fellow would want to know where the U.S.A was in places like Chateau-Thierry and Bellewood. We're represented, too, with Arthur Hunt and the rest who are going. Art kept his word. More than half the boys in the graduation class over there now. Yep, some are there that will never return. It's inevitable, but don't think too much of that now. Let me go back a bit. Sure, we had graduation exercises in the town hall. Humphrey Hampton let the night shift off to see it. Mighty handsome thing to do. Everybody sure applauded the winners of the scholarships. And the music professor just about went crazy playing Pomp and Circumstance. Then, too, a lot of fun was had at the class day exercises. I declare to gracious, but that Elmer kept all of us in stitches with his jokes. It wasn't long after that, though, before the war really hit us. We went all out to outfit the boys with their khaki uniforms. Funniest thing, really, I shouldn't laugh though no two of them looked alike. All shades of khaki and buff colors, especially after it rained. We sorta kept in touch with some of the boys, Jack Sanders, Elmer Watson, and the rest while they were at Camp Devens. Then we lost trace of them between there and Jersey City and then, over there. But look, there comes Hattie Hickey. She's been shifted to night operator.
You know I had to take Jack's place. Lonesome work and that it is. I don't like it at all, at all. What with them rats running through the room. I don't dare to take off a stitch. Nosy things, too. Even wanted me to share my lunch with them. Morning, Miss Johnson. Seems to me you are early. I've got to be early to get through the day. I'm trying to take Mr. Mason's place, you know. That's pretty hard. That leaves us short-handed on the staff. I have the students help as much as possible. It's wonderful what they can do if you give them a chance. Some of them, the pranksters, wanted to take over my class record book and report cards. I told him that was going a little too far. That sounds very much like them rascals. They be bothering me with their foolishness. Said one to me last night, "Do you have a line?" I said, "Yes, of course I have a line." "Well then," he said, "hang your shirt on that line." That devil. Oh, say, are you sure it was one of our children? Oh, I didn't mean it what way. We don't expect the schools to do in 7 or 8 hours what the parents can't do in 16. There'll always be so many devils. I'm glad since you put it that way. Which reminds me. George Peasley over to the academy once asked me if I wanted to go to the movies with him. I said, I should say not. I've been taking myself so long to the movies, I don't need nobody to help.
Hattie will feel better after a good day's sleep. Sounds funny, don't it? And now let's see how the war is hitting one little family.
He's gone. I just feel it. Mama, I haven't heard for 3 months now.
Oh, I don't think that. I never knew much about your pa in '98, but he came back.
Oh, but he did, didn't he? Did you feel it? Did you feel that he would come back?
Yes, dear. A woman's intuition, I guess.
But Mother, you know we wanted to be married, and then he went so quickly. Now if anything were to happen, I wouldn't want him to be alone.
What are you saying, dear?
Just that if he were to die, it would have been better if we had married. I somehow feel it.
Nonsense, dear. You can suffer enough without being a widow besides. This'll all blow over and then our boys will be back. I have a feeling that peace is near.
Oh, Mama. You do?
Yes, but don't get your hopes too high. You remember it took some time to get things started, so it will be some time before the last man comes home.
Shall I let Pussy in, Mama? He's hungry.
I should say not. That cat's already had a feast around the barn. He's a nuisance.
But don't you remember? Jack brought him to us when he was only a kitten. He's been so good.
He has, hasn't he? Are you my little kitten?
Oh, Mama, please. May I? You're a good pussy. You live here now.
I'll say he does. He lives the life of Riley. He knows that I have some liver in the icebox. For tomorrow, you know. Come sit down, dear.
I can't eat. I'm not hungry.
Oh, come now. You've got to eat.
Oh, come now. You've got to eat. If I only knew. It's terrible not knowing.
You've got to keep busy. You'll remember that I tried to get you started knitting. It's so relaxing. Why don't you make an Afghan for Grandma Sanders? Or do some more work on the garden? It needs to be cleaned up. Lord knows I'm ashamed of what the neighbors think.
I know it.
Marcia, don't gulp your food so. Take time to eat properly.
Yes, Mama. I can't seem to get anything right anymore.
Oh, it's not that bad. Oh, dear, I didn't get a paper tonight. Guess I'll have to listen in on the telephone line to hear the news.
Mama, you are awful. Want more tea? Guess what? I counted 7 Fords and 3 Saxons downtown today. Once there were 3 cars in sight, all at the same time. All of them were honking at once, making quite a fuss. Scared the baker's horse so that he reared and spilled bread right out of the wagon. One of the town boys thought it was funny. "Look at how the wagon rolls," he said. Jack? Is that really you, Jack?
It's me, all right, dear.
I've never heard from you since you went over. You're standing funny. Are you all right?
Oh, that's not so bad. I can stand up without it. See?
Jack, you've been hurt. I knew it.
Do you remember our last talk?
Please, of course. Every word.
And you still care. For me?
I will always care, Jack. I'll be waiting for you.
Wait, I can't see you so clearly. Please wait.
You're gone, Jack. Where ID do you go?
I'll find you again someday, I won't lose you.
Oh, Jack, dear. Please come back.
I'll come back, Marcia. Only believe me.
There. That looks more like it. You're quite the pretty one when you smile. What have you been thinking about? Something nice?
Oh, Mama. I just saw Jack. It was just like a dream. He'll be back. I know he'll be back.
That's the way to talk, you darling.
Well, now, and we have that all smoothed out. For now, anyway. Hope it stays that way. That fantasy was something, wasn't it? Nice to be able to see things that way, ain't it? But a good thing to see the beauty that's all around us, too. I sorta noticed it coming in from the farm this morning. Leaves had turned just enough to give us beautiful reds and golds and browns. Like a show nature puts on for our benefit, except there is always no charge. Well, these women, God bless them, have been working their fingers to the bone knitting socks, making fudge and baking California cakes for the boys. That's the way things are. Some are writing too, like Clara here.
I'm thinking of you, dear, tonight.
I'm thinking of you, too, Clara.
It's lonesome not seeing you every day at school. You spoiled me, dear.
I see you every day in my dreams, dear. Did you want to ask me something?
I had a hard time finding the new trig books. You had put them up high on the top shelf.
So I did. Are there new people on the faculty? Any men, for instance?
No, I'm not interested in men. Just in one man. I guess you know who that is. Chester, you didn't answer my question from before. Do you really love me that much? You went away so quickly. Things happened so fast. I didn't hear from you.
But it's almost as if I were back. See? I'm writing to you. I feel very close to you when I write.
Is there anything special I can do of you? It's so lonely. That's why I bury myself in my work.
I'm glad you cleaned my desk out before the superintendent came. His is the new class shaping up. Oh, yes. You may start looking for our home.
Pretty well. I think they are more serious maybe if this possible. Less darts and more careful reading of the literary digest. And they devour anything statistical and remember it. How many ships are being sunk each day and how many soldiers are being landed over there each day? And George Peasley has been very helpful. He finds that he can learn more U.S.A cooperating than by trying to sneak up on you.
What are our boys doing outside?
The gym teacher has been marching, doing squats right until they are tired and playing soccer. There, have I spelled it correctly?
Well, them letters help a lot. You can read the familiar writing and feel the presence of your loved ones. Look what we have here. Looks like a meeting of the Citizens Committee, only this time it is a joint meeting of the PTA, the Library Committee, and some of the powers of the Tuesday Club. Of course, today's Wednesday. That's all right when you come down to it. We will always rely on some people to get things done. That's the way it is in West Willis. Let's see what's on their minds.
Meeting will please come to order. There being no minutes, may I say briefly that we are here to plan for our returning boys. Here we are on the 13th of November, and the armistice is now a glorious part of our history. Let us bow for a moment of silent prayer as we give thanks to Almighty God that peace reigns once more in the world. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. And now, what is your pleasure?
I know all of you are thinking in terms of a suitable war memorial, but I'm going to jump the gun for a moment. Be practical, as you might say, toward those who may be coming back to live and work with us again. It will be the policy of the West Willis Mills to take any of the boys, young men, veterans who want to apply for work. That's if they are fit, you understand. Goodness knows, though, if we can't find a place for them in the spinning or weaving rooms, we'll put them in the shipping room.
We are fortunate in having in West Willis a thinking citizenry that plans for the greater good.
Madam President, the lumber yard at the junction will take 1 or 2, and the water department, aren't they? Yes, they are laying pipe down below the center. That'll take some time. Of course, let's be honest with ourselves. We don't know how many are coming back. We are much in the dark about that. All we know is that there have been some injuries and that the Hunt boy died in action.
Arthur Taylor Hunt.
Well, let's start with him. Seems to me we need a memorial set up. Something permanent with names inscribed of those who made the supreme sacrifice. Then, in another list, we could have the names of those who served our town. That's right. Our nation.
Where would you put it?
Down facing the bandstand in Center Park. Or, then again, it could be on the main floor of the town hall.
Friends. Let's say that committees be appointed on labor and on memorials. On the first, the chair appoints Mr. Hampton as chairman, R. Riley and Mr. Atwell. Thank you, gentlemen. On the memorial committee, I'd like Dr. Poole to serve as chairman, Mr. Stubbs and Officer Burns. Thank you, gentlemen.
Can't we do something in the library? I mean to start a special book fund to honor our esteem for the departed. The books could be in a special collection or in the reading room of the library. They might even be placed in the Academy Library. That is, some of the books.
What sort of books would you place in this collection?
I would like to leave that to the discretion of the librarian. All libraries are looking for books. They'd probably be history books and science books.
Do we have any problem in the circulation and use of our books now? Are you pages removed or torn?
Yes, we do. At present, we're working on that problem with the Academy folks.
I'd be opposed to setting up any fund if the public had direct access to the books. Bad enough now with the books in stacks. I'd have the people sign up in order to check up on their use of the books.
It seems to me that this is an excellent idea. How can we raise the money for the book fund? I think that this is a project in which everyone should share. There would be sufficient public interest. The students would want to contribute.
They'll go back and ask their parents of the money, I'll bet.
Not the ones that work, sir. Hardly a student. Hardly a boy or girl in our upper class who isn't working these days.
Yes, but the war's over. You forget that.
Just the time to ask for their help. We'll call it an activity, a community project. I thought you'd like to see some of the things we are doing now in our classes. This is the American's Creed, which I think is timely, and if you will allow me to read it. I believe in the United States of America as a government of the people, by the people and for the people, whose just powers are derived from the consent of the governed, a democracy and a republic, a sovereign nation of many sovereign states. A perfect union, one and inseparable, established upon those principles of freedom, equality, justice, and humanity for which American patriots sacrificed their lives and fortunes. I therefore believe it is my duty to my country to love it, to support the Constitution, to obey its laws, to respect its flag, and to defend it against all enemies.
Wasn't the creed mentioned in the Boston papers recently?
Yes. It was written by William Tyler Page, clerk of the House of Representatives, and accepted by the House on April 3rd of this year. I covered it in the Bugle, if you recollect.
So I do. Now I remember. Quite fitting.
We are glad that you brought that in so admirably, Miss Johnson.
Now wasn't that niche? We try to keep abreast of the times here, after a fashion. Well, and there you are expressing the sovereign rights of the people. Well, today's one of the days you might expect to see the people working on their gardens. Do 'em good to get outside for a change. Of course the war's over, but we got these gardens going, so we got to finish them. We have to clean up so the old lot will look better. Lots of people still without food. Of green thumbs around here, Herbert Hoover would approve.
Well, we had a good season. Almost wish we could do it over again. Maybe we'd do it differently.
Yes, all of us had a good supply of fresh vegetables last summer. Now that I remember it, your beans were exceptional.
They were, weren't they? You had good peas, too. And all of us had good corn and tomatoes. Surprise what this old lot was able to do. Hurry up, Stubbs. You're late.
Reckon we'll have to burn this stuff. It's pretty near the buildings. That's fine. What do you hear from Chester?
Oh, he's fine. Except for his leg. The shrapnel.
Well, I see. Superficial, let's hope. You are doing a grand job over at the academy.
Oh, thank you, sir. Everybody's been good. I'm glad I came to West Willis to teach.
You're glad. What about when our boys return? Have you thought about that?
Yes, maybe too much. We don't want to be disappointed. That's too selfish, isn't it? But we had thought about those vacant mill houses at the junction. You meant houses, I presume?
Yes. Well, and that would be nice. I've that cottage by the pond you could have reasonable.
Oh, doctor. Really? That would be lovely. Do I think we could both swing it?
I know you could. I can afford to keep the price low if you take good care of it.
Now there's what I call a good proposition, a bargain, as I do believe. Yep, war has changed things around a lot. We can't do too much for those coming back. Take this Chester Mason and young Jack Sanders. But what am I talking about? Here's two who will tell us. Maybe so.
Can you beat that? He doesn't usually say much about himself, only about some of the others. My dear little doll. Over here, I don't know where, and wishing I could be walking down Main Street with our dear. This may seem funny to you, but you know we went away so hastily. We hardly said goodbye. You were helping Clara in the bookworm, as I recall, and Mr. Mason didn't want to be interrupted. So, you know me, I wrote you a last note and put it in the hole in the apple tree. Did you get it? I tried to say how I felt, and I think I did better than I'm doing out here. My little lamb, when this thing lets up, I'll call you as soon as I hit town. Do you remember how Miss Johnson used to get after me for not being neat and tidy? Some mornings I was so tired, I wouldn't go home, and I know I was a sight. Well, anyway, I got a little mirror in my kit, and I just looked at it to see who was writing you. And guess what? I looked like this wild man from Borneo. So you see, you've got to make allowances for what I'm writing and how I'm writing. Wish I could listen in on your telephone line right now, dear. And say, I really hope that you are not around the house all the time. At night, I mean. Get out to the basketball games and the church suppers and all. Just as if I were along with you all the time. You've got to imagine that I'm there. You've got to go to the church socials and the dances. I agree. And tell me, please, what does a town such as West Willis, a community or a nation do when the boys go away? I mean, like 2 million of us over there? Do things move right on? I suppose they do. And someone takes our place, like a new class coming up in the academy. And the new class is always the best. One can take our place over here. Making the world safe for democracy. Clara was telling us about the casualties of war. And that wars will inevitably be costly in human life and suffering. Dear, she was exactly right, for you must know by now we are not all coming back. Let's face it that some of us will never come home. And if that is true for me, I've been the luckiest guy in the world to have such a sweet friend. Don't you know how you feel, but I'll always love you. Always, darling. And tell your mom, hello, and please call my mom and dad, as I know you will. Honey, I don't know, of course, but I have a hunch that the days are going to pass quickly now. So goodbye from here, and yours with love, Jack.
I know. That's a beautiful letter, and Jack's a wonderful boy. Man, I was quite pleased that he remembered something from class. That does us all a great deal of good. To be remembered, I mean. And appreciated. Teachers like to be appreciated. The sooner the better, but listen. My letter runs differently. Chester's older, I guess. He's far enough away, though, without making it seem more distant. Your letter received some time back, and I will venture to answer it. That is, answer the letter, not answer all the questions amidst this hell and ferment. It isn't that I am complaining, but every time I go over the top, I wonder if I'm going to make it. It's true. I'm scared. But I'll have to keep going. But if I ever get out of this alive, I'll never complain again about anything about the school committee or the budget or the old equipment. No, nothing. Remember the snowball problem we had that last year? I had to urge the boys, bully I guess the word is, not to throw snowballs against the building, and before we were through we had them building forts. Just remembered. I think I saw Elmer Watson, our Elmer, as we were coming in here. He seems so much older, Clara. Say incidentally, that was a good speech he gave at graduation. He was so sincere. Yes, it's trite to say, I suppose, but I'd like to be going over our reports for the year and plans for a new one. Surely glad that you cleaned my desk out. I had kept your vacation letters there rather than have my landlady read them. Well, say we could use a man like George Peasley around here. Place is so dirty. I need a bath. We all do, for that matter. George would be sure to send up the hot water. Remember the time the steam pipe burst and George said it busted and was heating the yard. I am writing this in October. The season is late here. War all around us, but nature must go on. Sometimes I look at my New Testament and try to recapture the faith I affirmed in the graduation exercises. Not that I have necessarily lost that faith, but when this is over, we are bound to come out of the war with a new sense of values. I see no reason to rush into what we were talking about before marriage, a house, a home, and a family. There'll be time for that when we're ready for it. This is a lesson that must sink in. All of which does not mean that we cannot be friends. I should on my part want to continue our relationship as before marriage, I mean. A house, a home, and a family. There'll be time for that when we're ready for it. This is a lesson that must sink in. All of which does not mean that we cannot be friends. I would on my part want to continue our relationship as before, that of being good friends. But we need to stop and to reconsider the taking of a step as serious as that of matrimony. I think a husband should have something laid by for a tiny day before he entertains the idea of simply getting married. And the question that school people and the folks at home bother with, should the wife work and should the town employ both as teachers, must be met and answered. Just before I came away, I received a number of notices of jobs in the Valley area. Some were to include teaching as well as administrative duties. I must say that I like that, for in my opinion the principal should retain a close tie with the education of his students. And now it is night here and the stars are out. Things are calm, for a while at least. I think of the usual happy homes of the American countryside, the firesides of human content that Ingersoll mentioned, and the scenes and loves that you and I and all of you will forever treasure. And I think of a day when perhaps there will be no more war and I shall leave this war-torn land and come home again. Then I shall hope to see the smile on your face, the light in your eyes when sometime, Someday God in His infinite mercy will spare us and bless us, and we can resume our work together under His plan.
And that, too, is a beautiful letter, Clara, a wonderful letter. Just think.
Don't say it. I don't know. I just don't know.
But I do. Only yesterday, he felt so much above and beyond me that it was a sort of teacher-pupil relationship, I guess you'd call it. But now I feel that I know him infinitely better through
Adversity.
yes, adversity. Human suffering. Oh, I just know that this will all lead to something good, that they'll come home to us again, and what seems so difficult now will be resolved. Isn't that what Pastor said Sunday? We need more and more faith and good works to show that this is all worthwhile. Why? What am I saying? They tell us Arthur Hunt has passed on, and others all through the valley and our whole land. It behooves us to take strength in his words and to believe.
I know I've been childish. And you are the adult. I should have been stronger. I've found myself so wrapped up in my children's, my students' problems. So wrapped up in working with them and for them. I was impetuous because my little problem seemed so far from solution. I guess the answer is work, more work, and less time to think. And yet the golden thoughts of a glad tomorrow arise again and again when I reach out. I reach out to touch hand, to call his name, and there is no answer.
They're troubled, that's sure, folks away and all. Well, that's the way it is. We can't do too much for those coming back. Of course, some tried to go but got turned down. Take Fred there. He's been helping his pa on the farm since the Lord knows when. The army doctors said he had flat feet. Fred wouldn't know. He's just been working. Took it kind of hard. Let's listen.
Gosh, I wish I had gone along with the rest of the boys. Might think I was a cripple or something.
You've just got to look at it in the right way, Fred. You tried, and I'm proud of you.
You are? Gosh, since when?
Since way back before graduation week. After all, you might have been killed.
Yeah, like Arthur Hunt. Somehow, I just can't believe Arthur's gone. Can you?
I know. All of us were together. We were so close.
What are you gonna do for Thanksgiving? Folks staying home?
Yes, a big meal coming and everything as usual, but it seems different now. Everything is relative. We want to start over again in a new world, a world with peace and respect and human regard.
Looks as if you remember Miss Johnson's explaining the 14 points.
Yes. She worked hard to explain the word trust and covenant. Remember?
Yes, indeed I do. Say, what do you think about those two?
You mean Miss Johnson and Mr. Mason? Well, I thought once they were going to get married before he went away. But they didn't. She's right cheerful and brave.
She sure is. And then there's Marcia and Jack. Nobody's heard anything from him, but that don't prove nothing.
No, we cannot afford to jump at conclusions. He could be here tomorrow for that matter.
Have you seen Frances lately? They say she looks terribly bad.
Not to speak to. I've been meaning to telephone her. You know she lives the other side of town, way below the junction. I know that doesn't sound well. We really should get together at a church. By the way, why haven't you been to church more lately?
Me? Oh, I don't know. Been doing all the early Sunday chores and then it's too late to get scrubbed up and go.
That's not a good excuse. You're not interested in me or you would get to church more often.
Come closer. I want to tell you something. Know what?
What?
I love you is all.
Well, making progress, I see. Ain't no harm in a little kiss now and then. She didn't protest too much. Puts me in mind of my own youth. Well, I wish I could continue in that light vein, but the fact is we've had labor trouble down to the West Willis Mills. Things was pretty tight during the war, but right now there's a lot of hard feelings and a few broken heads. Some sore heads too as a result of the demand for Saturday afternoon off. But listen to them.
I told you, I can't do it. We need 6 good days a week.
Best we'll work harder for the 44 hours and make up for the lost hours.
How can you do that? You're already working to capacity.
We need extra time at home with our families. We need time on our gardens. We can't afford to buy all our food.
We ain't asking for a paid vacation like some get.
We need more time to ourselves and less with the machines.
It's 48 hours or I shut down the West Willis Mills.
All right now. It's simple. Listen. As it is, we work from 8 to 5 with an hour off for lunch. 6 days a week, right?
Right.
All right now. What about this? Let's come in at 7:15 for 6 mornings, and by Saturday, we'll have done 48 hours by 11:30.
Sounds easy, but some of you just about slide in as it is.
We'll make it. We'll get up earlier.
You'll want a 6 o'clock whistle in the morning, I reckon. Okay. Starting next Monday at 7:15. But mind you, this is the trial only. If my production slips, we go back to the regular hours.
3 cheers for Mr. Hampton.
A sensible way to settle an old problem, don't you think? And worked out by one of the workers. You would think Humphrey Hampton would have had the answer to that one. Maybe he did in the old fox. That's the way it is in a lot of these things. I wish we could help Frances solve her problem as easily, but we can't. Only God can help that fine child. I'll just slip in and sit down, too. They say she's been running hard, but she'll settle down one these days. Maybe already has. Even a dog gets tired of running. Hello, Frances.
Hello, sir.
It's restful in here, isn't it? And quiet. Even gets noisy downtown, now.
Yes, doesn't it? I like it especially here after I come up from the mill. The rooms, especially the carding and the weaving, are so noisy, I want to get away from it all. But it's my job, my duty, and I should be thankful for that. You know I've been helping my father in the employment office.
Yes, to be sure. I've heard that you are a big help to your dad, and the company, too. We're all right proud of you, schoolwork and everything.
Oh, I try to be a good daughter and to honor my parents. Pa says what I'm doing now is more important than college. And I do go to commercial college, you know. I'm taking typing and shorthand. That was nice of you to send a card at graduation. I always meant to thank you for it.
Oh, that's just an idea in my fool head. I'm unable to send them prints, but I do like to recognize all our young people when they complete their education.
Yes, we had such a nice class. I guess you know about Arthur and me. We were to have been married, but Pa put his foot down so that we were not even engaged. Now I don't believe he's gone. War is a sort of mistake in a grand way, and I think they've got one detail wrong. He's alive and he is coming home.
There, my dear, and I think I know how you feel. They give me up, too, but it sure was good for me to set foot on the good old U.S.A. after my soldiering days were over.
It's good to sit here in the twilight, just the way your ma and I used to do. It's so quiet and restful.
Yes, Pa. And you deserve something like this, you have so much on your mind.
Well, how about you? Have you had your fling?
Pa. Please. Must we go over that again?
No, come to think of it. I'm tired of talking about it myself. But keep the car cost down. There's no need of riding so much, especially when you have 2 good legs.
But you said yourself you like to have me pick you up.
So I did, but I didn't expect you to be running down to that country club all the time. I confess, there was a time when I worried about you. Drinking and smoking. I don't know what your ma would think or say, but if you ever again take up where you left off, I'll cut you off without a penny.
That remark doesn't worry me in the least. I'm going to show you that I mean something to you. After all, one sip, one smoke.
You do, for a fact. About time I got something back on my investment. Spending money right and left for my family.
Must you always be talking about money all the time, Pa?
I've found it's pretty important to me. I have to plan my work, my production, my sales, my costs. Say, what would you do if I was to say, one time, no to your money needs?
Why, I'd do without. That's what. But look. Am I any help to you now? This week, This moment.
Why, certainly, with this strike called off and the new plan working. I need you to keep your eyes open for reprisals. They'll never expect you, a girl, to know anything about anything.
So that's what you've done. Made me a spy, a sort of tool to be manipulated. Well, I won't do it.
Oh, yes, you will, when you see how important it is. I've got to have the kind of information you can get for me by going friendly with the help. My employees. Find out about their living conditions and their working condition, from their angle. Whether they are satisfied with the piecework rate. Just so I can act faster than they can and save a costly strike. I'll beat them to the punch.
I'll continue on that basis. I can see how, if either side gets too strong, they might get pig-headed and do something foolish.
Now, you're talking. You know the way some people talk, you would think they gave me the raw materials for nothing and that the buyers are begging me to sell the finished products at top prices. It's as easy as that.
Is the new plan working out?
I won't know until I've had a chance to study the reports. But you can help me by watching that clock in the mornings and seeing if they're sliding in or whether the second hands are covering up for them.
I can do that all right, for I don't like to see anyone cheat on this time at work. But I prefer to do what we originally said, and that was to study the living conditions.
I'll keep my promise, to you, that is, but you have to be careful what you tell these people. I have plans for them, but it will take time. Phoenix and National, they're our competitors. They have built some new houses for their employees and they're showing a profit. Now, I am to modernize some of our tenements, but we'll need to educate our help how to live in them. When people marry and work for me, that means moving into one of my houses.
Yes, when people marry. That's important. Marriage.
What do you mean by that? Are you still thinking about that Hunt boy? Arthur Hunt.
I couldn't forget. I'll never forget. You'll see. He'll come back.
Honey. No need of your getting all upset over that again. He's gone and I'm glad he's not in the picture.
Pa. How can you say such a thing? He never hurt you. He's gentle and kind, and he is not even here to defend himself.
Well, town meeting's about to start here now, and we hope it's going to be smooth sailing, but that's expecting too much. Last time they argued about having new baskets put up before the basketball games. Said it would be a lot better than having the basket on a post. Seems we agreed on some new nets, too. Town was split two ways on the question. Another thing which came up was whether to go ahead on advertising West Wills. Sam Ferris over to the feed and seed store was going to make one of them dandy designs with some small boulders. You know, whitewashed, right there on the bank of the railroad on the way from the junction. If we paid him for it, most people thought he'd get more out of it than West Willis would get. Some folks was dead set against advertising on account of them ugly billboards scattered along our highways. We've got so many of them on our main roads that one old bird suggested that we call the town West Billboard. Imagine that. Well, most folks are here and we gotta begin. Specially scheduled meeting of the voters and citizens of West Willis will please come to order. What is your pleasure?
First, we must clear up the matter of having street lights on South Main Street.
Can we afford it?
Any way you look at it, it would be a light bill. Seriously, though, we're in the dark on South Main Street and sooner or later, somebody's bound to walk in the wrong direction. Folks will be moving to Boston. Will you have the question? Moved and seconded that we have street lights at every other second intersection on South Main Street beginning at Maple. All in favor? Those opposed? That is a vote. We will be as bright as Broadway before we get through. Now, on the question of the proposed memorial, I recognize Dr. Poole.
Our committee decided to hold up the proposed erection of a memorial pending the arrival of more of our boys. We are serious. We want the record to be accurate. Estimated cost at this moment looks like $512. With your permission, we will report back later in the year.
Thank you. Dr. Poole and committee members. Thank you. Thank you. And now I see Town Treasurer Atwell on his feet. Mr. Atwell?
Sir, question was raised last time as to the difference between a high and low tax on real estate. Well, it all depends. If you have a low tax and high assessment, that's one way of doing it, and if you have a high tax and low assessment, that's another way of doing it. Then there's some as feel we should have a low tax and a low assessment. That's for the real poor towns like Purvis and Shelbyville. Then there are those who want a high rate and a high assessment.
What does that add up to?
It adds up to fireworks.
How is that?
For the simple reason that the amount would be prohibitive. Unless you move to reconsider, I'd like to recognize Mr. Hampton. I'm sure all of us read his labor report to the people in the Bugle last week. It was very thorough and made me proud that I live in West Willis. Really did.
Thank you, sir, but I am not here to discuss the policy of West Willis Manufacturing Company. Fact is, I have been looking at the list of voters in the hall, and so many names have been scratched out and added that it looks like veritable Chinese puzzle, not the official list of duly shared town of West Willis. I therefore move that the town clerk, Mr. Stubbs, be authorized to set up a new list, the sooner the better.
Do I hear a second? Thank you. All in favor? Well, folks, I'm looking forward to seeing my name in print, spelled correctly, of course, in the official list. Is there further business?
I move that the Elections Committee officials do not smoke while examining the new voters.
Why, sir?
Because when I was being examined, the officials handed me a sample of law taken from the Constitution, and then if one of them didn't blow a cloud of cigar smoke in my face with it, I could hardly see the text. It brought tears to my eyes, made me cough.
Will our examiners in the future please cooperate in helping the voter with his reading? Does that sound right? Sounds ambiguous, doesn't it? Let me try it again. If you're going to smoke while working, will our election officials please blow said smoke in a direction which is calculated to be directly opposite the water? I thank you. Friends, officials, please govern yourselves accordingly. Issues are cloudy enough without throwing up a smokescreen.
What about fence viewers? We need a new list. I have the names of 3 newly married couples.
Is that in the form of a motion? Moved and seconded. All in favor. Congratulations all around. West Willis now has 6 charming new fence viewers. I recognize Mr. Montague. Lost. 1 Jersey heifer, last seen going south toward Boston. No offense, but for a custodian, you are well informed. Our thanks to George Peasley in the matter of the whereabouts of 1 Jersey heifer. Thank you. Thank you. I recognize Mrs. Evelyn Sparks, chairman of our Citizens Committee.
You have heard Mr. Hampton's modest reference to the labor policy of the West Willis Mills. Clearly, West Willis does have a plan for all of the citizenry. One thing I am going to ask that we put it into the warrants for a future meeting, and that is the matter of a drinking fountain at Center Park. So many of the children play there are children, and as you know, while we have provided a trough for the horses, going way back, why shouldn't we provide water for our children? I would like for all of us to give this matter our earnest consideration. I thank you.
That's all, right now, folks. I think I conducted a pretty good meeting if I do say it. But say that Clara wasn't at the meeting. I wonder what she can be up to. Folks say she's resigned to being a spinster, only on occasional letter from Chester, and that none to good. And yet, what a pretty spinster.
Same old town, Saturday night. Might just as well be a school night, sitting around the house.
Come now, Clara. I think you should go out more.
Go out more? With whom? And where? When? Who would want to go out with me?
I know some of the clerks down at the mill who would, Clara. Give them a chance.
But that's it. They think I'm asked for. And all I get is a letter saying, I trust you are well, Clara, or it will be nice to work together professionally again. Pshaw! A romance with the bookworm.
Aren't you being a little hard on Chester, darling? After all, he isn't with us. When he returns, you two will resume your knowing each other.
Yes, I know what you mean. A squeeze in the office or maybe a piece in the bookworm. That's Mr. Mason for you. A man of many moods. He won, to say anything important. Not him.
I just know he's not injured, Clara. Every time I think of Jack, it makes me shudder. Not knowing.
Well, if something has happened to him, which God forbid it hasn't, pity his poor mother.
Clara. That's no way to talk.
Well, she brought him up and made him into what he is. A man of silence. I think he was just leading me on, making believe that he loved me.
Oh, you imagine that, Clara. Just wait until he comes home. Just wait.
Yes. Just wait. Well, I'll fix him, getting me to look for a house so his family can move into it.
Maybe that's it. A person does have responsibilities. But come, have a cup of tea. It'll warm you up.
Well, thank you, dear. It's good, isn't it?
Mother makes the best.
Thank you, you dears. But isn't his mother all alone? That's a terrible feeling, I imagine.
Yes, now that her boy is away from home. Well, I'll let him wait before I answer his next letter. Then he'll appreciate me more. Why, just think, I'm 25 and the only teacher in the academy that's unmarried.
Gee, that's old, Clara. Wonder how it feels to be 25?
Go on. I'm in no mood for that. Why, just to show you, do you remember the last church supper before the boys went away?
Yes.
Well, we went, of course, and in the rush for seats, where do you think he sat?
I haven't the slightest idea, Clara.
He sat down at the end of the table, of all things. He knew I wanted him besides me, and he could have been opposite, but there he was at the end of the table, big as life, grinning at Mrs. Cheeseman and even at Effie Smith, the librarian.
Clara, you're jealous, so I know you still care for Chester.
No, I'm not. He can have Effie Smith for all I care. And then, to make matters worse, Pastor had everybody introduced around the table, and he began with Chester. Then, instead of introducing me next, he said, followed by Miss Effie Smith. Why, the old fool, I was never so embarrassed in my life. And the mill folks laughed long and lustily. Then, continuing on, Pastor said, and last on the right at table number 1 is Miss Johnson of the Academy. Miss Johnson, mind you? Now I ask you what you would have done?
I think that I would have ignored Pastor's remarks. Anyway, what did Chester do?
He smiled ever so sweetly when Effie's name was called.
But after all, it was something couldn't correct, Clara. Pastor, that is. Maybe he did it on purpose so as not to call attention to you, both of you being in the academy.
Oh, that wasn't the first time things like that happened. There was the time we went to Boston.
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 Boston? When we went to the teachers' convention, and if he didn't insist on our taking 2 separate seats on the train. Even the conductor noticed it. Aren't you 2 people together? He said, and Chester only gulped. Then the train filled up and someone came and sat with him. Oh, I could have taken his head off. It was so awkward we didn't even talk.
How about coming home? Was he any better? I mean, more thoughtful?
Worse, he was worse. This time we sat together, but he insisted on my being on the outside. Same conductor, of course. This time he laughed and said, Junior wants to be on the inside so he can look out the window, doesn't he? And at the station, he wouldn't take my bag or help me to the trolley. He's the strangest man. So afraid of what people might say.
Well, don't forget while you're talking that he's a fine upstanding man. I remember when the board brought him here. He's done a lot, even in this last year. Everyone knows it.
Yes, you're right. He's smart and I'm glad to have him, if only as a friend.
A good friend.
Well, a good friend.
Time heals everything. The boys will soon be home. Then, we'll see.
There's nothing to heal. We haven't ever quarreled. We haven't loved.
But the war will change all that. I remember when my hero came back home. I thought I loved him before he went, of course, but when he came home it was so different.
But Chester isn't returning home to me. He's coming back to society.
You'll have to help him. Encourage him, Clara. That's fair.
Encourage what?
Encourage him to take up where he left off. To roll up his sleeves and go to work. To be the good principal all of us remember.
And if I don't?
It'll be that much harder.
Harder, but I don't like the man, I just don't.
Come, Clara, we know that isn't so. Besides, talking together will help. You'll see.
Talking about what?
Talking about love.
Talking about love. Why, if he does speak to me about love, I'll blister his ears. He'll see. I'll make it so hot he'll leave town. The idea. Chester Mason talking about love.
Well, now, that Clara sure is feeling sorry for herself, but it won't do her a mite of good. Anyway, looks as if things are kinda picking up around here. Folks been getting important letters from the boys or from somebody who knows him. Hattie may catch a few nights off pretty soon. Don't know if Jack will be agreeable about going back. Income there might be a speck more than his pay as a solder. Those that are entertaining the idea of marital bliss have to go kinda slow unless they have a little nest egg. No telling what the girl's been savon up to. Long time without a kiss and a cuddle, too. But here they are now coming up from the station.
Well, so here we are back in the old hometown. I never thought I'd make it under my own steam. Hey, look there, it's our old buddy, Chester Mason. Hey, bud.
Quiet, he might hear you.
Oh, can that stuff? We're here, aren't we? Hey, Sarge. What do you know that's good? Any homework, or do I just go right out to the woodpile?
Hello, men. That is the first time I have seen 2 cars on the train from the junction.
Were you in that last push in September?
You mean at Saint Michel? Yes, we took it on the 13th. Where were you?
I got in a piece of that too. How about Jack here? What you say, boy?
I was in the Argonne. But I want to forget about TI. What do you think about things here? Turnout looks good.
It's never looked more beautiful. Say, I wonder how our friends are. Old Humphrey Hampton must be running to capacity now. There's nobody on the street but the cigar store Indian.
I understand that they have Saturday afternoons off now. It's a sort of trial run. We should see some of the help this afternoon.
Why can't we have a surprise class reunion this afternoon? Everybody's here except Arthur.
Yes, they say Art didn't make it, fellas. That's the way it is.
Are you sure? Poor Francis and the parents. I meant the folks out to the farm. They were almost as good as parents to Art. Hey, look, the red light's on. That's our pitch. Tell you what I'll do. I'll go down to the telephone office and slip on my old headset and phone everybody.
About 3 o'clock, everybody in the old homeroom.
Am I invited, Jack?
Certainly. Certainly, you and Clara, Miss Johnson. So long, Felly. Hello, Mrs. Sanders. Ma? Don't faint, I'm home here, down at the office. Listen. I'm planning a class reunion for this afternoon. Yes. I am fine. I'll be home before that. How are you and Pa? I'm going to call Marcia next. I called my best girl first. I said I am fine. Not a scratch except the limp.
Well, he kept at it till he got all the folks on the phone, and, after the first shock, they all promised to be there. Sure, and it does seem as if they'll knew a hot time in the old town tonight. Which reminds me, we fixed up the church signs. Most of 'em now say, "Welcome home, boys," and "God bless you." Never saw so many dogs running loose since the boys went away. There'll be a special lot of cooking the next several days, roast beefs and chicken, plenty of apple and mince pie, and they'll sure raid the old cellar for TH mustard pickle. There'll be family reunions and who knows, maybe some weddings soon. Then, too, the mothers will have been getting all the clothes out of the mothballs except those who have been handed down the line. The old clothes will look funny and not fit now, so it's downtown for a suit. Yes, a regular upturn of local business. Sport of a spree buying shirts and collars. You can still get 2 nice collars for a quarter. I wouldn't want none better. Later on, the preachers will take special note of the fact that most of our boys have been spared. We'll have more about that later. And there'll be family prayers and services, too. Take the mothers. Now the ma in most cases hasn't smiled too much in the last 2 years. But now she's jolly again and wearing a white dress and gloves. Such a lot of telephoning too. Hard to get the line. And then look at her hiding money all over the kitchen, in the sugar crock, in the raisin jar. Savon, up for the special Thanksgiving offering and the memorial service. Old flags have been spruced up, and there's the paws pulling weeds out of the driveway. Ma's are yelling to edge the flower beds, too. Some are walking next door or across the street to offer some extra eggs or jelly or raise cakes where it's need. For hasn't you heard? There's another man in the house. Yeah, Sonny's back. Our boy's back from over there. Well, looks as if we're going to have the class reunion right quick. Not too much trouble in an affair like that. Main thing is the people, and most of them are right here. A good idea to have it while you've got them because they're liable to scatter. Here they are.
Let's sit in the same seats we had. Can you remember which one it is? Right? Gosh. Everybody looks fine, don't they, Marcia? Hello, Alice, hey, Grace, and Marie. What did you do to your hair? Something different. Everybody is here except Francis and, of course, Arthur. Nathan. I can't get into the seat the way I used to. I'll have to back in the way the mamas do.
Listen to who's talking. That's because you've grown, dear. Bad weeds always grow high.
Is that why good things come in small packages?
Oh, Nathan, aren't you nice? Too bad Frances isn't here. Though she might come. She's changed.
Hello, everyone. Look quite natural. You're sitting a little taller, tough. Most everybody here? Fine.
I can't begin to tell you how much we missed you all these 2 years.
Did you miss anyone else, Miss Johnson?
That depends. But I have a surprise for you. I saved some of your maps in history class. Now you've been out making history.
Well, will you look at my map of Europe? It's way out of line.
And my idea of France. Gosh, though. I can do better than that from memory. I should have been shot.
We knew that a long while ago.
I want a re-examination. Now I know I'll pass.
You got a diploma, didn't you? I think the school stretched a point in giving it to you.
You do you? I don't see that you set the world on fire.
No, he put the fire out. Nathan's a fireman.
You ought to know. You are a volunteer, aren't you?
Yes, and we had lots of action during the strike. Called up down to the mill several times.
Do we eat? That's what I want to know.
Yes, there will be refreshments. The Montags, old reliables, have generously provided us with sandwiches, pie and milk. But I'd like a word or two with you first if I may.
Are they going to mention names? I'm opposed if they do. Chester. No, it's to generalize the whole idea of our nations having come through a great world war and to give thanks to God for our many blessings in so doing and to look to the future.
That's more like it. Surely we'll help. Well, for one thing, most people like to feel that they count in the whole product, yet they want to be personalized so that they are not downgraded to a statistic. Right? I think so.
Don't laugh, but I'd like to mention the idea of human dignity. Being accepted and that sort of thing.
Being accepted, no matter what or who you are. We've just seen a whole bunch of people English, Scotch, Irish, French, Belgians, Dutch, Germans, Italians, all the rest. All the races and creeds mostly. Pretty much what we are over here.
You are saying, in effect, does this lead to anything or what have we learned? Certainly we will not come out with land assets or acquisitions.
You've got to get some love into your dedication services. Love for others than ourselves. Love of home, church, community, nation. Love of and for other peoples.
I was surprised at finding one thing that's not in the history books. Of course, I'm not so naive as to think that everything under heaven is there, but it's like this. What we learned about ourselves, north, south, east, east. I just feel as if I learned a terrific lessons but at a terrible price.
Our sense of values has already changed, and someone will have to pay for all of this. I don't know, of course, but my guess is that Uncle Sam will have to pay.
We've got to have leaders so that the rest of us will know what to do. I mean it. Elmer, you're planning on going to college, aren't you? I mean after things quiet down a little and you can stop to think. You'll be using your scholarship. And Uncle Sam will chip in.
Yes, to be sure. Harvard in the fall, then law school, I hope. How about you, Marie?
Well, I've worked these 2 years so that I could go right along once I start in. I think I'll go in the fall, too. Smith, probably.
People. I have gotten a great deal of good out of your discussion. I think all of you are saying again that we, even in West Willis, are a part of all this and that we're going to occupy a new position in world affairs. It's something like a play. The actors take a few boys and that's it. Now Uncle Sam has just been a big actor and played a big part in this war. The war to make the world safe for democracy. Uncle Sam is still making some curtain calls, but we're not sure whether he will come back or whether the show is over. Guess we'll have to see why is the ultimate fate of the Versailles Treaty and struck into the thing they call the League of Nations. We don't want any part of it if it's going to tie us up. Our sovereignty must be safeguarded at all times.
We have just got to read and read and then do some reading. I was just thinking of your mentioning sovereignty. Today, no man buys property unless he thinks carefully about his access to it. He'd be a fool if he didn't. He'd need a road or a right-of-way or something. Uncle Sam is like that. He might get into something he can't get out of it.
Good, Elmer, a good analogy. But it's time for our refreshments. Nathan, we are indebted to your folks.
Ma likes to do things like this. I helped her slice the meat and spread the bread.
A son to make a mother proud.
I'll settle for a roast beef sandwich. And maybe a baked bean one later.
How comes the individual pies? Afraid we couldn't cut them straight?
No. Ma was just using up some old tins. Here. Have a maple sugar sandwich. You'll like them.
Like them? I'm moving out to your farm. What am I saying? I'm moving in at the Drapers.
So they've had a good reunion, don't you think? Of course, first time most of them have been together in 2 years. I have an idea they're going to pair up for the evening. That's what I really think. One thing they missed, however, I'm surprised it didn't get out before this, though. Arthur's back. That's Arthur Hunt. Not the same Arthur that we used to know. War's changed him as it has so many. Hanged if he didn't head right for the mill when you least expect him to. Of course he checked in out at the poor farm, but the way I got it, he said he wanted to earn his way without any more supervision. He's over 21. That does make a difference, and I guess the West Willis mills have gotten to the point where another man or two don't make no difference. Not this man, though. He heads for the weave room and gets himself a job. Always was clever with his hands. Folks didn't pay much attention to him because of his wearing a mustache. Some of the new help did recognize him, though, and express surprise at his being alive. Wish I could say he's got a good record, but I don't know, I'm sure. Only been here a week, but they say he went right out and joined the union, and now he's got them all upset. The members, Humphrey Hampton has announced that he will give up the new schedule and go back to the old plan of working Saturday afternoons. Said he was losing. But Arthur's got the workmen thinking that they're the ones losing, that there's more to strike for. He wants better working conditions, full pay for the shutdown period. That S when they are idle and repair the machinery, and a bonus for so many years of service. Feelings running high now. Looks as if they're going out just before Christmas, of all times. All worked up, too. Knocked out some windows and some of the thread's been cut. That's in the weaving and spinning rooms. As for Hampton's business, he's got orders to fill and needs full production. Who doesn't? And so far, he hasn't done nothing about meeting the new strike threat. Kind of ironical, isn't it? That Hunt boy used to court Humphrey Hampton's daughter. And to say he ain't been out to see Frances since he got back. She's bound to hear about it soon or later. I guess they never did patch up that old affair. Must have written to each other, but letters apparently went astray. And Humphrey Hampton's bound to wake up to the fact that the Hunt boy's working there right under his nose. When he does, believe you me, there's going to be some action on the part of Hampton, that is. He's wrestled with all kinds of problems in his day, railroad rates and shipping problems, and he whipped bad humidity for his yarn when it was breaking, and he whipped that. Then, hanged if the help was keeping potatoes and coal in the bathtubs, so he got so mad he turned the water off unless they promised to use right. People finally used the bathrooms the right way. They took baths like the rest of us. Now Arthur's a good boy. high principles and all that, and he's got that war experience behind him. You can expect him to be stubborn. I guess Humphrey Hampton sometimes wishes he has a son to sorta take the load off his shoulders. Just like he done off the old gentleman, Hampton. I should know because I worked for both of them in my time. Off and on, that is. And I can't help thinking that underneath everything Humphrey Hampton will do the right thing, but you may be pretty sure he'll have his way. Then Hampton's founded this town, by gosh. But look here, the army's taken charge.
Oh, Jack, I thought you'd never get home. One night I talked to you quite clearly as in a dream. You were injured, but you assured me that you would be all right. It was so beautiful.
Me, too. I was under a terrible handicap. I couldn't get near a phone.
Well, you can laugh now that I'd all over.
In that sense, yes. But I want to forget Iobu the war, please. Want to think about us. It's time I stopped talking and did something, I know. After seeing so much in so short a time, I realize how little I know. Now I wish I hadn't slept those so many classes. You know, Sleepy Sanders.
You were tired, Jack. You worked all night.
I still lost out on the class work. You know, everybody kidded me. I was the foot of the class, they said.
Well, what are your plans, dear?
There's a school in Boston which has a plan I like. It's work-study. It's like this. You work on a job for 6 weeks, then study for 6 weeks. Engineering. That's for me.
That's wonderful, Jack. Just what we want.
We, you mean U.S.? I don't know how.
You're going to do it. We both are. You're going to need help. Typing your reports, eating decent meals, having a home, however humble, to come to.
But you'll be too far away to help me with any of that.
Have you forgotten? We were going to be married. I have saved up quite a tidy sum.
You are wonderful. You are just a wonderful girl, Marcia. Mom says you made an Afghan for Grandma Sanders. Where did you find time for all these things?
There is no Jack to take me out. No moonlight walks or dances or picnics. That left me the movies and church and the opportunity to do things for others, and I enjoyed it. At no time was I sorry for myself. I kept quite busy. I found things to do. Come now, you're not telling me about yourself and about us. How bad is your leg?
It's a sprain, that's all. I think I'll be able to walk to the altar without using my crutch.
Oh, Jack. That's no joke. Tell me more about the college idea.
Well, it's Northeastern College in Beantown. What you earn working on a technical job is supposed to help carry you while you're studying. And on the job, the experience is important. That's it, today. They keep asking, how much experience do you have?
Have you been through the catalogs?
Yes, while I was waiting around for the train, I went out to the library at Copley Square and looked at them.
Ma's got a place set for you at the table. A late supper. Will you get a ride into town for the services on Armistice Day?
Dad finally ordered a Ford. Ma teased him so badly. Now he's mad because it hasn't been delivered. Yes, I'll get a ride with Elmer. His old gentleman has a Saxon.
Well, then, you're provided for, dear. Don't light that cigarette now, please. Ma's calling us to come in.
Well, now, I kinda thought that would amount to something. Hasn't a ring, yet, but give him time, give him time. Seems like a right sensible pair with that old virtue we used to call stick-to-itiveness. A good quality. Wish more had it.
I've still some work to do on the text. And I need quiet to think about things.
I'll be quiet, dear. I know I've been talking too much, but it's been so long.
I didn't mean it that way, Clara. You know it. I'm trying to write what shall I call it, an oration. It's nearer the spirit of the ode, I guess. And everyone must participate by reading some of the lines.
Oh, Chester, I'm just sure it will be majestic. You've got so much ability.
Maybe. Speaking of ability, I've been turning about that offer I got in Springfield. I believe I've about made up mind.
You have?
Yes, I'm not going to take it. I'm going to stay in West Willis at least several more years. I've taught and learned. This class coming up, they wouldn't understand it if I left. Quit is what the newspapers would say. Here is where my heart is, and eventually, I'll settle down, as you know.
Chester Mason, what are you talking about? Are you going to do a research project or become a hermit?
I'm going to become a husband to the sweetest girl in the whole world.
You are you? Well, I guess I have something to say above that. You're a good teacher, a fine principal, an influence of good in the community.
But what, dear?
But if you ever dare to mention love again, I'll never speak to you again.
What's come over you, Clara? You've changed.
For the better. I have experience.
You've had what?
Experience. I meant it. I'm used to that line.
That line? Whatever gave you such an idea? Who did you learn that from?
Who from but you?
But I love you.
There you go again. Love? What do you know about love?
What do I know about love? I know that I love you, that's what.
But I can't respond to whether you do or you don't love me, like turning the water on and off. I've come to like my status just as I am. Why love? What's the use?
Clara, be sensible. You don't know what you're saying. Anyway, things are different now. I'm home. I wasn't sure when I went away, and the war changed everything for a while. I'm here now, and anxious to have you tell me that you love me, too.
Love is for people who are going to be married.
Well, what do you think I'm talking about, dear?
Are you telling me anything more than just love?
Just love, Clara. I want to marry you. Don't you understand? Here in West Willis. In the Congo church. Soon.
Oh, Chester. Yes, soon. But I will need a little time. I must talk to Mrs. Draper, and you'll want to tell your mother, too.
Then it's all settled and I can make plans?
Our plans? Yes, dear.
Yes, our plans. No longer will I have to think about taking other jobs, away from here, and you.
Oh, Chester.
And I think I'm going to do better this coming year. There's the night school and the Americanization classes. I'm to have charge of all that. Maybe you'll like that. You won't see much of me at home, dear.
Chester. Please don't. You know better.
And we can save up and go to summer session together. You don't know it now, but you're going to help me write my next thesis. I've always wanted a secretary. But wait, I haven't told you everything. The Ford dealer has the best-looking car, second-hand, but just right for us. But say, hasn't this turned out to be a wonderful year? Home and work and love. It's too true. Clara. And the West Willis faculty will lose an old maid. Yes, and that right soon. Close your eyes, dear. Do you like touring, dear?
Like it, it's wonderful. Oh, Chester, it's just wonderful. Just like our own wonderful love. Oh, did I tell you about Dr. Poole's cottage? It's on the west side of the pond and just big enough for us. But you'll have to see it to appreciate it.
We'll look at it tomorrow, dear.
But tell me, can nothing be done for your eye?
I have to make several trips into the Massachusetts General Hospital. They're doing all that they can. I've got the one good eye that still tells me you are very lovely. I'm going to rely on that.
Chester, please don't talk that way. I'm worried. And your leg cleared up? How about your arm?
Leg clear. Arm healing, but don't worry. Worry doesn't pay. I used to worry about grades.
You did? I didn't know that.
Yes, I worried about some of the pretty girls who were failing in their math. I was afraid to call them to the desk to tell them about their work.
But why?
Because I might have to murmur sweet nothings into their ears.
My fault, I fell for that. Chester, be serious. You must be careful and check up on yourself. I insist, after all.
After all what?
I'm the future Mrs. Chester Mason.
Well, and that is the way it should be. I'm sure we're all glad, but there's trouble ahead.
I could have sent for you at the mill, but confound it, there's enough talk already to keep this town agog. Well, you're looking fine, never knew you were in the war. I declare. I don't see how you do it. You've got guts, boy, I must say. Well, let's get right to the point. Cigar. No. Now that this war's over, let's say we forget about what happened that last year. Let bygones be bygones. Fact is, we miss you out here.
We? That is. I am missed. You can only mean that Frances is a part of this. Did she plan it or you?
My idea entirely. I must say you're touchy. Sit down. Relax. A man can make a mistake, can't he? Oh, all right. I'll come right to the point. Damn it, man, I'm your friend. But listen.
Look here, Mr. Hampton. If you think for a moment that just because I came from the poor farm, your poor farm, I am eternally indebted to you, you're mistaken. My record's clear. I'm grateful, but I don't really owe you a penny, nor am I going to give up my plan to lead the workers of the West Willis Manufacturing Company to better arrangement of the workload. Things don't just cancel out, Mr. Hampton. You ought to know that.
You're up the wrong alley, son. I'm not trying to corner you, not for a moment. But there's Frances, have you forgotten about her?
You should know better than that, Mr. Hampton. But you put your foot down. Don't you remember?
As I said, I'm trying to forget, don't you see?
Then what do you expect me to do?
Do the sensible thing. Take up with Frances again. She likes you, snap out of it, man, while you have the chance.
Is that a threat?
No. That's a suggestion. A mighty good one.
This sounds something like a trade. You are afraid of what I might do in the mill and think I'll forget about it if I court Frances. Is that about it?
All conjecture. Pure conjecture. I declare. You should follow a legal profession. Incidentally, I have plans for young men of proven ability, plans for the future. We've got to have real research and give up this old game of trial and error. I know what I am taking about. I want only the best.
Well, you'll never sell me on that lead. I don't know why my right to love Frances and court her should stand on its own merits without making her a bargaining point.
What do you mean, Arthur?
I'm afraid you misunderstand your man, Mr. Hampton. I'm susceptible to anything good for Miss Frances. But a trade, the sort of bargain which you suggest, never.
A stubborn one, or I miss my guess.
Not stubborn, just smart, Mr. Hampton. My love for Frances won't permit me to think of anything that smells of the mill.
Have a care, young man. I've listened to about enough.
And I too. If that's all you have on your mind, I'll be going along.
Confound it. Listen to reason, Art. You know first of all that I like you. Right? And I love my daughter. That's understandable, isn't it? I want only the best for her. Now why can't you two just go along as you were, touring? You say, well, you're right, and in the parent. I'll say all right, because it is. I like you.
Because it isn't, Mr. Hampton.
No. And why not?
Because you're not going to have the whip hand over me, I swear. You don't deny it.
Deny what? Boy, out with it.
You know that there is a meeting of the workers tomorrow. We meet in the morning. You have been notified to that effect.
Art, I'm surprised. You've got to get rid of that idea soon.
What idea?
That I could use my daughter in such a way.
Well, you've got her working for you as it is. What's she up to anyway?
What do you mean, sir? That's it. You mean she's spying on the works? How dare you?
Well, we've been seeing Frances, so the help says, for the last several weeks. I'm surprised that you let her walk, thought the mill. She might get hurt. Her clothing, you know. It's no place for Frances.
Well, it's her idea, really. To help me learn about the workers. Nothing wrong in that. And practical, too. She has a good head on her. Could be sitting around talking it easy or wasting her time the country club. I think that this is far better, don't you?
Did you know about my being in the mill? I suppose she did.
If she did, she didn't let on. She carries a notebook to jot down what occurs to her, and then we talk things over when we can. Already made some good suggestions about my women spoolers. About braiding their hair and wearing nets.
I know. I must say the help all like her. But it's a risk.
That's something I, as a parent, have to take. Someday, you too will have to make such decisions. You will find that it's no picnic. Of course, my mill, valuable as it is to me, doesn't compare with the regard and affection I have for my child. Yes. You have grossly underestimated me as a citizen and as a father. I declare. I'd have thrown anyone else out who talked that way to me. Take my millwrights, for instance. Sometimes they get rather chesty, but it doesn't do them any good. Now, you should know better. Well, then you haven't seen Frances to talk to. Is that right?
Yes, that's right.
And you still feel that you love her, I take it. Let's say all this talk is water over the dam. I've already forgotten the unpleasant part. If I kept all my problems to myself, I'd be shot.
I can understand. That is, I think I can. And I shall admit that I've been wrong. Frances is too sweet a girl to be sacrificed.
You'll see her, then.
If she is willing to see me. Say, have you talked this over?
A good many times, I too have been wrong about you. Frances wouldn't let me forget. Understand now, you're a man of honor, you have a good record, just continue with some of those good ideas you were telling me about last year. Understand now, I'm not promising you anything. Just throwing out suggestions.
I know, and I thank you, sir.
No thanks needed. We'll resume firing any time now. I've a feeling you two are going to outvote me many times, 2-1, you know. Well, say, she's been upstairs working on her reports. Don't you want to talk to her now?
If you think I should.
If I think you should. Hell, you're in love with her, aren't you? Miss Frances. Please come down here.
Oh, Arthur, at last.
Frances, my darling.
You've been talking to Pa.
Yes. We had quite a talk, quite a talk. Haven't we, son?
Yes, sir. We have. It's all right, dear.
Well, if you'll both excuse me, I'll get on up to bed. And say, I'm going to keep the mills on our present schedule and waive the Saturday afternoons. Fact is, we're doing better than ever. Well, don't hurry now. Good night, Art. Good night, dear.
Good night, Pa. But must you go?
Yes, dear. A big day. A big day.
Good night, sir. So you never gave up on me?
Never, dear. Not really. But there were some awful moments.
That tub took so long to get here. And I missed the only train out of Beantown.
Arthur Hunt. You mean to say you had time to call from Boston and didn't?
I thought it would be better to surprise you by walking in. I gave that idea up when I found that you were working in the mill. I don't know how that story got out about my dying over there. Must be another Arthur Hunt.
Did you get the socks I sent you at camp? And the underwear?
Yes. Yes, they were great. Then I didn't hear from you for a long time when I went over. Nor you from me. Couldn't write anyhow. Fingers got splintered.
Oh, Arthur.
West Willis never looked so good to me as it did that morning. So many fellows on that boat all packed in like sardines. Just think. Enough for a small town. So, I bet you've been helping your pa no end, huh?
Yes, dear. We have a very efficient home. Have to. How are things out at the farm? Were they glad to see you?
Oh, things are fine. It's a sort of misnomer, poor farm. Been might good to me. Overseer says everything's cancelled out. Said I serve my country and that he's proud of me. But I wanted to get out from under, that's why I took a room near the mill. I'm at Kelly's. They made me shave my mustache off.
They're not the only ones who are proud of you. What are you going to do, dear, now that you are home? Are you going to continue on at the mill?
I don't know, but I think your pa's going to give me a chance to really learn the cotton business. He's going to see that we earn our living, a good idea. We understand each other very well, I think. Then, with some help from the government, I think I'll go to commercial college. You know I want to be an accountant. Just one more month. Just as long as they don't think we've been fighting.
Are you sure? Have you had all the attention you need?
It'll be all right. Well, I guess just about everybody will be there at the memorial services. I'll walk over here and ride into town with you, if you don't mind.
If I don't mind, who do you think I would be going with?
Time for me to be going. Good night, Miss Hampton.
Good night, Mr. Hunt.
Well, things appear to be in pretty good shape here now, so we'll just leave him. Well, it's another day, and we've been talking a bit long enough. Finally go around to our Armistice Day meditation. Here we are at Town Hall. It's Tuesday, November 11th, 1919.
We now come to the main consideration of our thought together. We see in our mind's eye a war-torn world. We see the ravages of that war and the stark devastation.
Yet our own town and others like it continues the humble comforts with which we are blessed.
The tumult of war lies heavy in a battle-trod land. The sounds have not yet died away.
Yet the quiet of our cities is broken only by the roar of industry or the plaudits of spectators at sports.
There is a hunger and weakness of the human heart.
Yet our land is richly abundant and our spirit strong.
There is rubble and the trappings of destruction to be removed. Yet we press on to build new homes, schools, and highways. We are eternally blessed. The hearth has been severed and voices are stilled forever.
Yet for this our hearts are heavy, our sympathies profound.
But the shadow of war has fallen across our firesides and faces belong only to memory.
Yet there are those who inevitably scoff at the Lord's blessings.
We turn to our own immediate problems, the education of our youth in our own post-war world.
A merciful God, that has brought us to our present state of being.
Yet we cannot afford to relax in the onward march of our own society.
Advantages were made to be pressed and opportunities seized for greatness. Chester, yet we must exploit not only our national wealth but our spiritual legacy.
We must be sincere in our concepts of freedom and equality and fairness of the open mind.
Yet if we do not practice thoroughly our highest ideals, the world may misunderstand our preachments.
It is a time then for our own careful searching of conscience to see where we belong in a world of society.
Yet other nations, while listening to the words of our officials, feel the impact of what we, the American people, really think.
We rejoice then for God's goodness to us as a people.
Yet we feel the challenge of other peoples who look to us for help.
For those who have made the supreme sacrifice, it is our highest resolve that it shall not have been in vain.
Yet other peoples must understand our motives and our sacrifices to fully appreciate the true heart of the American people.
And all of us must remember the words of our Lord when he said, "It is more blessed to give than to receive."
Well, folks, that's the way things are here in West Willis. I didn't mean to promise you anything sensational. We're just plain people, most of us downright humble. No, sir, no three-ring circus here. That's in the spring. But I see it's Wednesday morning, and there is Officer Burns to turn the red light off and Hattie coming down from the telephone office. If you ever come up this way, we'd be mighty glad to have you call. Just 43 miles on the state road from Boston. We're not as cold as you might think, but if it's in the winter, come sit by the stove sitting right plumb inside on the first floor of the town hall. Bye now, and may God bless you.